amazing female leaders who we have today. I will be introducing them shortly. I just wanted to spend a couple of the early minutes while we wait for people to join to set in on the context. You know, I think 2020 is a time when we are seeing a transition, particularly in India, when it comes to how the next generation of women leaders are done, are perceived, and the expectations thereof. You know, I'm very proud to come from a business group that where the majority of our senior leaders are all female, and so I understand very closely how that can happen in a very organic way over the years. And a lot of people ask us, how did this happen? You know, what was the diversity policy? Were you more inclusive to women? How did you get so many people to join you? And I'd say it's a very simple thing that we did. We focused on merit. When you focus on merit, when you focus that and in creating policies that reward people for great behavior, for great work, for great performance, we have seen women across sectors immediately rise up to senior positions. And so, therefore, there is an inbuilt fallacy that we have in 2020 that there is some special support or quota or the reservation that is required for women to truly be able to create a transformational experience. That said, however, and I'm very excited to see our panelists here. Hopefully, will discuss some of this. That doesn't mean that organizations don't have to change. We have a lot of systems, processes, and policies which are sort of legacied on from prior generations in India, which seem to be designed to make sure that women don't grow. We've had, of course, the huge and dramatic shifts with the Me Too movement in the past couple of years, and more so outside India, I would say, rather than inside, but has really highlighted some of the barriers that were set up for women to truly succeed in the workplace. And but I am very confident that in 2020, as we move forward, we will see a lot more women-led organizations, women entrepreneurs, and senior leaders all across the country. We are seeing that in politics, we are seeing that in business, and we are seeing that in social organizations and in life. I'm particularly heartened to see that our honorable courts have also taken note of this. There have been several new laws that have plugged some of the issues with regards to women inheritance, with regards to making sure the economic rights and freedoms of women across India are properly educated. And although I am sure there will be changes required, you cannot do these things with a very general and broad brush, but it just shows that as a nation how far we've come. And I am deeply proud out that we are way far ahead than most countries across the world, at least in a public effort. That said, we have miles and hopefully not decades to go. There's a lot to be done, but I will save that for my summary and context remarks. First, if I could invite Shri Alka Kaulji, past chair of CII Delhi, to give her opening remarks and context. Alka ji, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everybody who is here. It's an honor to be in this session because it's a very important topic. And if I go with the statistics, I think nearly half of the population would be females, or so it's a big force to reckon with, and it's a uh, we have been talking about women, how women are important in. I do believe that we have changed. I've seen my mother struggling for some other reasons, and So we have changed. We have come not a long way, but yes, we have come some way. And I do believe that India has a lot of potential, to lead, where putting women on top of, in the hierarchy, in the workplace, and for startups, because there are avenues available right now. Of course, I would say we have a long way to go, but the road is there, and the struggle is not over, but the struggle has been refined. There is a platform for the struggle. You have a platform to voice. You have, um, and Aditya ji, I agree with what you have said, that organizations need to change their mindsets, and they need to adapt. I do believe that many, like your own firm, there are many firms like that who have taken the initiative, who have been the role models, and they've taken not just their family, but like merits you talk. So merit is the best thing that can happen to a woman, because women by nature are very hardworking. They that's an inbuilt something with their DNA, and they have an eye for details, because that's what they do. Women don't compartmentalize, yet they put everything in a separate compartment. So there's a linkage to their compartment. That's why women are known to be doing multitasking. If you see, most of the very key places, women will be there, and they'll be excelling on the job, because the finer detailing, the multitasking, is it comes very naturally. I'll not say that men don't do it. Of course, they do it. Men who have evolved, they who have changed, they do it. But women do it very naturally, without even thinking. And I do believe, Aditya San, that COVID is a boon for females. I'm sorry to use this, though I would be happy, like everybody else, if this goes away sooner the better. But it has kind of given a very little level playing field. Now we are talking a lot digital. Like here we are in this digital thing. So I'm sure the panelists, we have some very esteemed names, will say many things, and I'm going to learn a lot of things today for my own self and for my own company also. Uh, uh, because now we can work from home. The digital world has actually opened a new era, a new platform. So females had a lot of restrictions, because a lot of responsibilities were on them. Like, the girls get married, and then they have to have babies, and then they have to, even though the maternity leaves are there, but they're still required to do many things in the house generally, because औरत ही घर संभालती है types, like that way. So work from home, digital era will give opportunities to many females now, who have at home, and who don't have kind of resources either to travel, or they don't want to travel because of certain restrictions, bacche hain, ye ghar dekhna, things like that, and security reasons also. So now, with this digital era, I do believe that a lot of more avenues will open up, and organizations should be very clever to catch those opportunities, because there's a lot of intelligent, competent workforce lying there. So I do believe that from here on, if we are wise enough, we'll catch the best brains, and use them very wisely. And women also, they'll have more opportunities now with the security systems. And of course, the law has been little more favorable now, made with the Honorable Prime Minister doing his best. So I do believe that women would get more opportunities. Before it was they should, but I do believe that they would get more opportunities now. And um, we have women, a lot of women on this panel. Just a simple request to all the men, that they need to with open arms, except because women are not here to take anybody's place. They're here to make their own place. And women actually have a lot of collaborative thing. You know, they like to take everybody along, and they like to have a whole team, and everybody should be happy, and they should be happy. So I do believe that that's how things will be. And so uh, that's what I would like to say. And I'm sure you have already set the tone for the meeting. So we're going to have a lot of more of good news and learnings here. Thank you, Aditya, and over to you.
So much, Dr. Kaul. I mean, I think that's a very important point that you made. We're not here and we have never been here to advocate any sort of a battle of the sexes or a gender war or all of that. I think there is just a recognition from all parties concerned that historically there was a bias against women in the workplace. There was a bias against women in professional roles. There is a bias against men in domestic roles. We also have to acknowledge that. The term sort of house husband is not treated with the same respect as housewife even still. So I think as we move on, we do have to realize it's not a zero sum game, and that by pushing for the prosperity of our communities, of our societies, of our country, of the world, more and more opportunities are coming up. More and more things will come up for all people, regardless of gender, race, class, caste, and all, to play critical roles. With that, it is my great honor to give a brief introduction of Shri Anjana Prakash, Senior Advocate and Justice. And of course, if I were to give a complete introduction, we would be here for another hour or so, ma'am. So, if with your with your pardon, I will just give the brief, a few minutes version and of that introduction. Srimati Anjana Prakash hails from Rohini, now in Jharkhand, and has done her schooling from Nashik, Maharashtra, Jamshedpur, Kanpur, Bareilly, and finally passed the senior Cambridge from Allahabad. So even as a childhood, was very, very well traveled and experienced all across the country. She graduated from Patna Women's College, and she joined the legal profession in 1982 and has worked at first as a junior to her father-in-law, the eminent lawyer, late Braj Kishore Prasad, for almost 10 years, during which period she was trained in criminal law, which was his area of specialization. And she not only inherited the legacy, but also became, of course, a staunch advocate of it. She's also had the good fortune of working with other distinguished advocates such as Sri V.R. Manohar, Sri Ram Jethmalani, Sri Rajendra Singh, Sri Shanti Bhushan, which added to her learning experience, and brought her through being a junior in the field of law to become a well-known senior in the country. In 2004, Patna High Court, in its history, uh, for the first time designated, I think the technical term is lady lawyers, but fair enough, as senior advocate, and she was one of the two who were designated. She has been a path breaker in the legal profession. She is passionately involved in legal aid and was nominated as a member Bihar Legal Services Authority by the Patna High Court, and became secretary of Patna High Court Council for Legal Aid and Advice. Has been actively involved in free legal aid, juvenile justice, family courts, loc adalats, crimes against women, and the jail administration movement through various NGOs such as the Patna High Court Council for Legal Aid and Advice, uh, Punash, UNICEF, Bihar Human Rights Association, and so on. She was the sole member from the eastern region of India for a study group invited by the government of the United States in 1999 and to visit the US to study judicial reforms and administration, juvenile law, related to women, prison administration, and of course for street children. She's a regular invitee by Doordarshan, AIR, and various TV channels for panel discussions. Ma'am, I'll leave it at that, and over
Thank
to you,
you.
please, for your remarks.
You've thoroughly embarrassed me, Aditya, by saying all this. I tell you, till date, I feel so embarrassed about such things and hearing things about myself, they may be facts, but I don't know. Maybe being a woman changes the whole perception that it's difficult, to acknowledge, whatever it is. Anyway, the first thing, of course, thank you so much for speaking so well of me. And I hope, this session of 10 minutes only will be of some use to each of us. I'm sorry, that we cannot meet face to face because of COVID times, but hopefully, in future, we might be able to do it. And you were so right when you said, during COVID times, we've reformed ourselves, we've changed our, the way we relate to each other. And this is one opportunity when women can come up, come out without coming out of their homes or, comfort of their homes and, not actually and dutifully do other things other than just looking after homes. But, the first thing that I want to say is, that I have a problem, even though Aditya, you spoke about, it's not a race and all that. But when you see the heading of today's topic, it says women first. Now, when you say women first, obviously there is somebody who's second. Now, the point is...
Ma'am, they can always be one and A. It doesn't have to be first and second.
I'm just teasing, but actually, this is how the perception is. It all comes out of the subconscious that we know you want to assert yourselves as being first. But actually, that's not the position. The position is, that we want to be saath. We want to be equals, not first or second. It's not a fight between two genders. It's not a fight with anyone at all. And fact of the matter is that actually, you're most of the time competing against yourself. All the time, this fact, that there is a social construct and it has such a bearing on your own perception that you have to fight through that barrier first of all. As a woman, am I expected to do this? As a daughter-in-law, am I expected to do this? As a wife, am I expected to do this? So, you start expecting things, because all the time you've been socially ingrained to think that you're a multiple personality. Now that multiple personality has several duties to discharge. But unfortunately, there is hardly any advantage that we're talking about, It's always the duty that you impart. Ek achhi bahu ye hoti hai, ek achhi beti ye hoti hai, ek achhi bibi ye hoti hai. Magar the focus is always on the woman as to what she has to give to the, to the society or to the family construct. It's never, what she's going to receive. As a daughter-in-law, she should be given, proper respect. Unfortunately, there are so many laws, that are in place. But when you see the way people's minds work, things have not really worked, as they should have. People have, reached certain positions which, others can envy. But at the same time, the general rut is the same. Now, recently, I just talk about it. Recently, the Hathras incident that happened, there were some TV interviews, of people. Why do you think that this happened and all that? And everyone was blaming the girl. कि लड़की को बाहर नहीं निकलना चाहिए था, लड़की को पढ़ाई नहीं करना चाहिए था, लड़की को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था. तो, the victim is not the real victim. The victim becomes, the society. Victim is the boy. क्यों उसको है ना इतना किया? अरे वो है लड़के तो निकलेंगे ही and all that. So much so that even a judge said, that this is a hormonal requirement. And you can understand this. How can you understand it? So you make victims where women are concerned, of people who are not actually victims. So this is the perception that needs to change. Now, when you see, typically a person who has succeeded has had to, fight and prove herself as a person. I'll tell you about my own experience, that I got married to a family where my father-in-law, he didn't have any, he was very successful as a lawyer, but I hope I'm not boring all of you. No, okay.
I'm not at
Your
all.
hot dogs.
This is exactly the story we want to hear.
Okay. So I got married to a family, where my father-in-law was a very successful lawyer. And I didn't know anything of law because my father was a public servant, he was a government servant, and we traveled all over and all that. We didn't know what law a lawyer was, So when my father-in-law proposed that I study law, we said yes. I mean, it was like, कुछ समझ में भी नहीं आया कि क्या होता है वकील बनना and all that. पढ़ लिए 3 साल इस बीच, and I had 2 children also. Then I started practice. ठीक है. I think, our crop, I, along with a couple of more, we were the first, serious practitioners in the High Court. And unfortunately, both of us, we came from a privileged background. My friend happened to be, daughter of a judge, and I was the daughter-in-law of a very eminent lawyer. So both had, certain places even within the bar. So nobody messed with us as such, but at the same time, the perception remained the same, that they did not expect us to be serious practitioners. So much so, years later, there was a judge who became, the Chief Justice here from Bihar. He became the Chief Justice of India. And when he met me on a social occasion, he said, oh, so you're still practicing. And I was so peeved, I said, how can you say this? You've seen me perform. You've seen how serious I was as a practitioner, and you're still asking me this. So the general perception is that, women will just, dissolve, or, they'll become non-entities in certain spheres. So thankfully, Aditya, I'm really happy, that we were the first crop of lawyers who projected ourselves as serious practitioners. And there were so many lawyers, lady lawyers after that, who came in and who said that, okay, we considered you a role model. And therefore, even though they did not belong to the privileged background that I had, then also they saw me as a person. They did not see me as, as a woman from the social construct. That prism was, different. And that was important. And I used to feel so heartened, there were young girls, bachelor girls, not very, they were not very financially secure, because in law, unfortunately, the first 5 years, you don't earn much. So, the family has to support you. Not very many families are, financially so well off that they would be able to do that. But despite those difficulties, coming to the court also means, if you come on a rickshaw, utna paisa lagta hai, या आप ऑटो से भी आइएगा या किसी चीज से भी आइएगा, बस से भी आइएगा तो पैसा लगता है. So all that is a drain on your financial resources. And yet, there were women who were not, so very well off, from very well off families. They came and they worked, because they saw us persons. They saw us as persons which the society saw as women. And that's what they identified with. And that was important for me, And I still feel heartened, when you go to Patna High Court. I mean, when we used to have these women groups, coming together for a farewell or something, some common agenda, people were surprised that there were so many women lawyers, were practicing. So it was so nice, ki, are din pe din badh rahe hain. And of course, things change because you compel them to change. When I started doing well, my colleagues, my male colleagues would do, कि Anjana, तुम तो है ना कि among lawyers, women lawyers, I think you're the top, जितना भी बोला होता, 5, 10, जैसा आपने मन किया बोला. So, and I would always retort as this, कि why do you say, that women, among women lawyers, when you compare me to the others, me, because I have come here as a professional. I'm not a woman professional. I am a person in my own right, and I am a lawyer, and my introduction starts here and it ends here. You cannot relegate me to a position of saying that I am the best among 20 women lawyers. Similarly, I would not take the liberty to say the same thing about you, that you're the best among male lawyers. Obviously, because that is not understood. There are certain preconceived notions. So when you do well, people will say among women, she was among, she was the best, or whatever they'll say. but I was competing with my other male colleagues. And, I would acknowledge myself, there, that I was equally good, if not better. I was equally good, to people who also later on became judges, who became very successful lawyers who were practicing with me also. But fact of the matter is, it's so difficult, when you come to a point when you are a threat to the others, for others to acknowledge your presence, to acknowledge your position. And that's the problem. So long as you can pamper them, so long as, you can have this feeling that you are the one, you are the guardian, you're patronize them, it's okay with you. But when they come as an equal, you do not accept them. And that is where, we need to break the barriers. You have to see women as equals, not first or second or anything like that. You have to see them. But first, for that, women have to break, that kind of cobweb within their heads also, that, that they are, persons of multiple identities. But at the same time, they cannot think in terms of only duty. They also have to think in terms of rights. And when they think of rights, they have to also think of duty. Because of late, what has happened is that there are a lot of criticism now कि आजकल की लड़कियां शादी करके आती हैं तो all that they think is, कि मेरा right ये होगा, मेरा वो right होगा. I don't conform to that view. That is also a compromise, because I think, that there it is the question of identity is linked with duty, as well as, your whatever your the duty or whatever your right. So, it's an amalgamate. In an amalgamated form, you have to think of these terms. Now, unfortunately, the women's movements are always criticized on this ground that with the women movement, what has happened is that people, stopped respecting women, because all that they thought was, this is my right, this is my right, and this is my right. And it ended there. But that is not true feminism. That is not true feminism at all. Because feminism means that you treat that person as a person. You treat a woman as a person, you treat a man as a person, and they're equals. Equals in their obligations, equal in their duties, equal in their accepting whatever that there is. So you receive, you write, the rights. But the point is, the rights, there are laws which give women rights. That is only to make the society equal, not to make that person an unequal identity. This is something that we need to teach people. You're not an unequal, person.
And Raji, so I have a question there for you. We have, and, pardon me, I'm going to use this opportunity to ask questions. Since since we
No,
have
I'm
some good time
fine.
on the clock, I'd rather ask questions rather than have
Please,
sort of
please,
some summary at the end. And Raji,
please.
one of the, since you are a legal professional, one of the thoughts that have come in various forums is in the spirit of this equalization to remove gender specific laws entirely, and sort of we had a need in India for decades, where we had to have laws that protected women in specific, right? And now, as we have evolved as a society, as you said, part of what we realize that gives this impression that women might be weak, they might need special treatment, they might need there, wherein, quite frankly, any law, a gender neutral law which ascribed everybody, men and women, the same rights, would still work in favor of women because they didn't have those rights before. And is that something that is possible, or even even we should do, or we still need very, very, perhaps even tilted rights for women to make up for issues that are rampant?
No, Aditya, you come completely right. There are most of the law should be gender neutral, because, see, what happens is that I was a criminal lawyer, and obviously, there were lots of cases of 498A which came out of domestic violence and things. Now, the point is, that I understood that it need not necessarily the man, who can torture, who has the ability to torture. It's also the woman who has the ability to torture. It's not, gender specific. All these things are not gender specific, and therefore it should be gender neutral. I would think like this, that it should be gender neutral. But Aditya, at the same time, where the financial thing is concerned, we still live in a very unequal world. We still live in a very unequal world. I mean, like your household may be different, where you give your wife, your daughter a full hand, where expenses are to go. But in most households, it's the man who controls the purse. And when he controls the purse, who completely deprives, the woman financially. And there I would not really agree, where gender specific is, I think that apart from that, the rest should be, gender neutral, I would think.
Anji, could you
You know,
explain, for example, Ji, again, I love that I have somebody from the legal profession. It's very easy for them to answer this compared to when we are having a very
no,
general
it's very nice.
discussion. You mentioned this inequality of opportunity when it comes to earning. And that is something that is chronic in India. I mean, we have, I think one of the problems that I certainly face is when we are having these discussions, we tend to still get stuck in a upper middle class lifestyle, wherein the vast majority of women in India experience something very, very different. Things are changing for them, but definitely not as much as we see perhaps in a more marginally educated segment of society. Would you say that a gender neutral law, which sort of is well formulated around financial disparity, would cover it, or do in specific women need special protection?
I've not given so much of thought to it, but
Fair enough, see, but
I would think, Aditya, I would think that financial aspect where that is concerned, it should be gender specific, but the rest can be gender neutral. And I don't agree with you when you say, the upper middle classes, women, they are treated equally. I'm sorry to say,
no, 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 they are not. I am saying that
education has nothing to do with your notions in your head. The social constructs, it's like, it's really deeply embedded into you, and it runs across, classes and, financial
energy.
caste,
I
everything.
am fully with you. And that the
Yeah.
limited point I was making is that a lot of progress that we've seen in the last 20 years is a little bit illusionary, because a lot of it has been more visible. Where we're talking about now X number of CEOs who are women, X number of lawyers, doctors, senior professionals, and all are women, may give the impression to people that India has suddenly become very equal of opportunity when it comes to women,
Really,
when we have to
you're right.
acknowledge that that,
I
that
would
data
think,
set is not representative.
ah, gender neutral.
Aditya,
Alka
can I
ji.
say something? Yeah. I would still like to say that India is still more progressive than the other world's countries across the world. I'll not say we are progressive, but we are, if you do the comparative analysis, um, well, we, there are, we all know how certain countries are. I would not like to name those countries, but there's very good hunky-dory picture on the outside. Go deep inside, it's not the same. You, me, and ma'am also must have seen. We have visited many countries. We have been opportunate enough to live there, and we have seen. I still feel that somehow lived outside, seen things. When I came back to India, I still feel, of course, we have a lot to do, but we are not as bad as we are projected outside. Of course, we have to improve, and I absolutely agree. I always stand against the quota and the reservation for women, because when you talk of merits, why there is a quota? Just do a fair play. Just be very transparent and fair. Doesn't matter. Two BTECs from any college, if they're passing their exams and they, this thing, give them a job. So that way. But if we say that India is really worse hit across the globe, no, I would like to differ there. The son, we have a lot thing. We have a prime minister who has been a lady. We have our honorable Anjana ji here, who has been. We have, go to the villages. Females are actually making a lot of decisions. A lower middle class is forced to do a lot of things. The women have taken things on their, of course, torture is there, stuffs are there across it. I'm not trying to glorify or make a rosy picture here, but I would say that what we do is 80% on the carpet and 20% under the carpet, but things outside also happen equally bad. Is there the laws are very tight and they're very strict, and so maybe because of that they're able to control, but they also have.
I'll continue, and I want to bring in Annaji also on this. In 2020, we've all gone through COVID, right? And we've been looking at the latest manpower reports, workforce losses, and such. And in the Western world, of course, there's this sudden notion that a lot of jobs held by women are actually better off under COVID-19, although more risky compared to a lot of the traditional jobs held by men. There is also, whether it's, for example, nursing, teaching, frontline staff, all of this place where there's a disproportionate representation for women for historical reasons. There is also a sudden opportunity. One of the big reasons why women, and Anjali, you also alluded to this, have been historically kept out of the workforce has been this very dicey ability, because of the duties, because of the personas that they have been pushed on, that they haven't been able to balance their home and family life. And a lot of women have, when given the option, when even they had the option and the opportunity, want to have that balance. They want to be with their kids. They want to, they want to have the ability to be with their families. And often the jobs that they're offered, the opportunities they're offered, make it impossible for them because it's long distances, different cities across continents. And so they've either had to not get employed or they've had to settle. There is a hope that and I'm not a believer in this, oh, we'll all work from home for the rest of our lives. I think next year, once COVID stops, we'll sort of start crawling back towards a full normal. I think a lot of industries have already moved there. But even if we have a 20-30% change in allowing access to women to a greater flexibility in work from home, work from alternative locations, is this real, or it's just a hope? Do you actually see it really, really helping women? Because the other picture which I once saw, and I won't name the institutions, like an Ivy League institution, was a private member's thing, and they showed a professor trying to teach a class with a baby in one hand, a PowerPoint in one hand, and was trying to keep the baby away from the camera while soothing it while sitting and doing the class. I mean, that's not a good thing either, right? You do want women to be able to have their professional space. Anjali, what do you think about this? Is this a real option? Is it an option that women should take? And based on what you're seeing, is it really happening, or this is just once COVID is over, we just go back to our old ways?
See, there are two aspects, of work. One is, work satisfaction, and the other is the financial aspect of it. So where the financial aspect is concerned, people have been working, from home and still, giving output, which has helped in the financial sector. So, but where job satisfaction is concerned or work satisfaction is concerned, I don't think, working from home can be a substitute, from working in a real workplace. And Alka, I wanted to just point out about, the difference between the countries. See, our usual argument is this, that India is quite well off and all that. I'm not on that, but how, because we're not pitting each other against each other.
Yes.
Against each other. The point is, that we as a democracy, our aspirations are different, from the other countries. And the social system that we've had, cannot be compared to the West.
No.
To the place, to the, the countries which do not have a democracy. So when you compare two unequals, you will only get, result which is unequal. So, I mean, like, there is no other country which can be compared, with India, where the social aspect is concerned. Maybe, the eastern region is the same, Japan, Korea, etc. The social setup is the same. Maybe I'm not on that. Everyone has the differences.
Yes.
We all have typical or peculiar exceptions and examples, and you cannot compare. But women as a whole, this is true that in the West, where they say, that women are financially empowered, etc., you see, that there is no social net for them. Whereas here, when you think in terms of torture, etc., there is a social net. The woman lands on a net which is, of a family, no matter how, how indifferent the family is. But the family is there, and the social construct is that you have to help your daughter. So whether you like it or not, you do manage, you do help, So the point is, these are things which cannot be compared. But when you talk in terms of, the political aspect, since we are a democracy and we have an Article 14, we have an Article 21, you know, you think in terms of equal opportunity, you think in terms of, equality on a day-to-day basis, even on a social construct. And this is my argument, this equality clause is not only for the state to enforce, it is also for us. We have to treat the other person as an equal, because the constitution says that we are all equal, politically equal. Politically equal also means, it whittles down to the social structure. And this is what we need to understand, and which is not done. So I think, it would be a little not fair to actually, compare India with the other countries. We have our own, setup, our own aspirations. I, as a citizen of India, would always demand equality, not only for myself, but for others as well. For the person who's working in my home, I would, demand equality even for that person.
Yes.
Because I understand that as a political statement, that is what has to be done. And that is what an evolved democracy is.
And I think point well taken. I think the limited point Alkaji was trying to say is that, often I don't
India,
know
that of
why,
course, of course.
I don't know why perhaps
No, we
certain
are not
pockets
backward
of
at all.
media around the world, this, thrives on trying to portray India as this,
That is all. There also, I would think, they have a very set pattern. Questions given out with black and white, no grays, Anybody who's seen Saad Ka Aankh will know that actually how forward India is.
No, absolutely, G. And I always say that we went from snake charmers and tiger guys to poverty,
Monkeys living on trees.
pornography. Now it's oh, these people are horrible people for women, for this or that, and I'm and some critique is well placed, but a lot of it is like okay, a no, and
It's also
b
very political. Actually, it's
very political.
political also, unfortunately.
And where are our benchmarks, and I think speaking on a broader base, even I think Alkaji makes a very
True,
valid
true,
point, and so do you,
absolutely.
Anjaji. At the end of the day, all of us are here because we fundamentally believe in equal rights and equal opportunities, and I think it's fair to say that certain countries, and we won't name those countries, do a fine job of being high on those indexes and talking about it. But when you actually meet the women in those countries, they come and tell you a very different story. And I think this also alludes to the fact which always pauses me. When we're talking about women empowerment, when we're talking about all of this, even in India, sometimes over giving awards, over giving rankings, over doing all of this stuff ends up brushing a lot under the carpet as well, even here, where we still have so much work to do. But Alkaji, 2 minutes of yours on this entire thing. COVID-19, work from home, balance, is it real? Is it something that women should look forward to? Is it going to afford them new opportunities, or is this just a mirage? It's a nice
No,
trend
I
or
think
a
it's a very unnatural situation, Aditya. It's a unnatural situation. I don't think that this is normal. This is not normal, Aditya. We may be doing our work from home, but this is not normal.
But gee, do you see again once you see we've had company after company after company, very large companies, very large people saying, and I've seen many people in the legal profession as well who sort of come in and are commenting that are saying that look, that yes, this is not normal and no one wants to remain this way. But there are lessons to be learned, and that we can be more
Yeah,
inclusive
yeah,
to
yeah,
people
yeah.
who can't show up to office. We can hire more remotely. We can, if not 100% of workforce, maybe 10, 15%, 20%. You know, we've gone from, I remember certain of our more elderly advisors, associates, senior leaders, requiring two assistants to set up a Zoom call, and middle of COVID, they are there with their phones and managing multiple calls on their own. There's no five assistants or two people who are setting up the video conferencing room. Person comes in, they're able to handle it. But but again, my worry is, as we are promoting this lifestyle, as you're promoting this option for women, is it realistic? Will it actually happen, and is it in fact good for women?
Um, can I just say something?
Alkachi, please.
Yeah. I don't think I agree with both of you that this right now what is happening is not real. Once the vaccine is out, over the time we will have uh, another new normal, which will be mix of what we had before and what we had during this COVID period, because people have kind of realized that work from home is not just only for IT. It gives you kind of a free space. It also so right now we have a lot of maybe 80% work from home, but I do believe that it will still be there, because people have realized that they can cut on their costs, yet use increase their productivity, because the world has become so competitive that we need to really be working now. Before, we couldn't think of doing exports, like now my customers in manufacturing, I'm from manufacturing sector, we're doing trials on over the phone, which we could have never ever in our life have thought about, and without meeting the buyer physically. Now you people are doing exports, you do fix a Zoom call or whatever call, and then you do negotiations on that. And before it was very difficult. So things will change again, because things, that's how the life is. It keeps adapting to the new ways. But if we are wise enough, I do believe there's a lot of women at home, who I know have lost couple of good females engineers, because their family thought कि अब बच्चा तो इसे ही संभालना ना, husband तो काम करेगा, जबकि they were earning at par with their husband. And I would like to call them कि घर पे रहो, कोई problem नहीं, I'll send you the data, do the work, send me back. So those, there'll be a new term attached to the flexi hours, the way you're doing. Right now, people have gone berserk. 7 baje bhi phone subah aata hai, 10 baje bhi raat ko we are working from home. Because the home means kahin jana to nahi hai, kaam to kar hi sakte hai. So this work from home will also get a structure, a defined structure, because 9 to 5 means 9 to 5, and but you can still arrange around it. So I do believe that uh, personally, I feel that it should be beneficial. We will move to a different norm where we'll meet physically also, and but we'll also be using this online portals. That's my personal opinion. Yeah.
Here, I would like to say one thing. When women are at home, what happens is that multiple demands are made upon that woman. Okay? And suppose if there is just one phone in the house, the priority will never be the woman to have it. It will be the children if they are studying. So, it will never be the woman. And the thing is, that once you walk out of the house, you are completely off, the worries of home, and you can work, even if, you work for 2 hours, the productivity is much more than you work at home. So you work for longer hours from home, but there are, because of the interruptions, because nobody lives in an ideal condition. You live in a household where the servant will come and ask कि खाना क्या बनाए, अच्छा वो घंटी बजी है तो उसको जा करके देखो, अच्छा वो कुरियर वाला आया उसको क्या सामान लटाना है, all that is there all the time. So people are making demands upon you, but when you're out of the house, you're completely out of the house. And then, your productivity would be much better, I would think. Okay, you can tap the resources of many people who've not been stirring out of the house. But at the end of it, the person who requires the produce will see also, whether it is worth his investment to, give to 10 people the kind of work that he can get from 2 people for these many hours. See, because as I said, there are two things to work. One is the job satisfaction, work satisfaction, and the second is the financial aspect of it. And financial aspect is important to both the key players.
I think both of you make very, very good points. I think, Alkaji, this entire notion of having now a structured system in which we have to, we can't do work from home 24 hours. But Ananji, I fully agree with you. And I think even as we are moving sort of to the work from home, usually it's our women who get the short end of the stick, because they are the ones who have to compromise, find a space in the house. They're the ones who are being consistently interrupted. They're the ones who have to make sure that their kids are on their version of Zoom calls and such. But I hope, as we return back to the new normal, kids going to school, husband going off to their workplace, home at least maybe 3 to 4 hours of productive time they might be able to take out. In-laws supporting and pending, of course, in many families there. And I think that might provide some impetus to get a lot of women back into the workforce.
And maybe, you can tap some resources. Aditya, maybe, COVID has taught us that we can tap some resources which were not available to us before. So you can tap resources from the villages who were not available to you physically before. So, that kind of a thing, of course, you can do.
Absolutely, Jane. And I think what we've done is the unfortunate worldwide pilot study on remote work. And we've lot of learnings from that, some good, many bad. I think that euphoria of work from home is great has sort of petered out very quickly after the first 30, 40 days, and people realize that there's a reason why we made offices in the first place. And I think but we're almost out of time, but I'm for one, I'm very hopeful that as companies have learned, if not to work from home or be remotely, to at least be flexible. I can share from our own experiences. We've had access to some of the top talent in the country just because we were willing to allow them to work half a day, for example. And I was shocked that why isn't this such a normal part in many other companies, given their seniority, given their productivity. What they do in 4 hours is equal to a similar person you would have had to pay 3 times as the amount to get done in 12 hours. So for me, that gap, I think, will get bridged. And I think hopefully that remote work, perhaps the remote part won't do, but I like the notion that a flexi work enlightenment that has come in might still be there. Anjali, last words, 2020 going forward, if there is one big challenge you think that we have to solve to make India and the world a more equal place for a woman, what would that be, Ji?
I would say investment in your own children. Investment in your own children. That is the best place to begin is at home. You start teaching your children the importance of equality, and everything else will fall in line.
So rather than giving lectures just outside, I'm often prone to do, you first make sure that you're in your own home, your own children are seeing you practice equality. One thing is to talk about it, and we've had a couple of webinars on values and how to transfer it to the next generation at CII, and we have to keep telling people is that children don't listen to lectures; they watch you, and then they copy what you do. And so if you're not embodying that spirit, your home members won't.
True, absolutely. I agree completely.
Alkaji, last words, please. The one great challenge, if we can solve, we can make the world a more equal place for women.
Apart from what ma'am has just said, I would believe that men need to be very, very supportive of their women, and women need to also understand that not everybody is bad, not everything is bad. There are good things also there. So, get we need to find the midway.
See, as we have that old saying, behind every successful man, there is a woman. Behind every successful woman, there also has to be a man also there supporting.
There's a practical truth where that is concerned with me. My husband was very supportive.
Well, absolutely, G. And I think, I hope for all, and I will sort of end on this. I think there's so much progress that has happened even in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I certainly see it. Among the business communities that our members at least look at, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, thinking of their daughters as an integral part of the business, or them taking senior roles. Forget about hiring women from outside. Even at home, thinking that, oh, my daughter who's very well educated in college, first getting her educated the same level in the same subjects that was expected of sons, and then providing opportunities for them in your own business, your own trade, your own craft. Forget about hiring other women to come in as well. And even on inheritance, I am, we are a lot of now small businesses even talking about succession planning and all, and women never had a seat at the table. And I think that huge change has happened not in 20 years or 30 years, but even just the 5 years. And I'm very excited that if in 5 years so much change has happened, the kind of role models we have for women, the kind of leaders that we have, I have 2 daughters, by the way, so I'm very biased. That I am so glad that they will
You're a
grow
lucky
up.
man.
I'm very lucky.
Lucky
Twins.
man.
And so I'm so glad that they will grow up. I have a younger sister, and her role models. We were fortunate in our family to have those. But when they looked outside, beyond 1 or 2 or 3 well-quoted people, there wasn't sort of, everywhere they looked, they could see a role model, they could see a mentor. In every industry, there was a role model and a mentor, at least one, if not a huge number. And I think that's something which I'm very, very excited about, is that hopefully my daughters will get to see, and thanks to all of you here, that they are, being a woman is an asset and a strength, and doesn't have to be seen as always a ladder to become equal. They were already there in the first place. Thank you so much, Anjana ji, for coming in. This was a very enlightening inaugural session for me. I'm glad we moved away from just a standard remarks, and we were able to get a micro panel discussion. And now I of course hand over to our esteemed panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you.
I would be very much flawed if I didn't sort of speak out for this. The CII, Indian Women's Network, IWN, absolute fantastic organization. Please, all of you, even if you're CII members, even if you're not, please do join them. They are doing amazing things all across India. They are promoting women, and they have a very broad membership base. It's not just for business women, it's for women who are professionals, women who are trying to start companies, women who are have been there for a long time and have achieved great success. It's a great umbrella organization. And now, particularly the Delhi chapter has been doing incredible things in the last 2 years. Please join them. They're a wonderful group of ladies, and I'm sure many of you will find a very supportive team and home there. And for the men, please do support the women in your life. And IWN, I keep trying to join. Apparently, you have to be a woman to join. So, sad for me, but there are so many other ways in which you can support women and women organization, particularly professional organizations, because they, particularly under COVID-19, really need a little bit extra help and support. Everybody's struggling, but here is and now is a time where you and your contribution can make a difference. Thank you, everybody. And once again, my gratitude to our inaugural guests.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Adit Berliaji. And we had the most exciting and most interesting inaugural session with 2 distinguished members. Now we have and we hope to continue the various issues that were picked up during the inaugural session, and get some contribution from our esteemed panelists today. Coming to the this session, which is how women leadership can have handled the pandemic and what is the way forward. I want to start by saying that there we have in India we got independence. At the same time, we also got every right in terms of the constitutional promise, the right to equality under the Constitution of India, a promise to ensure social, economic, and political justice. So the rights came to the women in India from the very onset of the independence. So in the last 70 years, we have seen a greater unfolding of the women's participation, women's empowerment, women's contribution in the social, economic, political field of this country. So in that sense, Indian experience has been a unique experience. Now, having said that, I want to add one line of caution that where we are, in India, women constitute about 50% of the population. And when we gear towards, when we want to become the country, we want to lead the world, the 50% of the population cannot be left behind. There is a greater amount of work that has already been done, and today's ensemble, the panelist itself shows that how women in various fields have contributed in terms of the development and in terms of realizing that space which was created and promised by the Constitution of India. So I would invite the panelists for an opening remark. Each one of you, and then perhaps we could take it in a more dialogue and a discussion format, like the way the inaugural session proceeded. So the first speaker for our day is Miss Paridhi Minda, who's a whole-time director of Minda. She's an elder daughter of leading industrialist Mr. Nirmal Kumar Minda, a graduate from IILM Delhi, which is affiliated with Bradford University, London. She did a short-term program in marketing with London School of Economics, as well as her finishing school from Switzerland. So in the year 2001, Miss Paridhi Minda, she joined the Minda Group. Initial 1 year were at extensive shop floor kind of work. And thereafter, she's been associated with the LAM division of Minda Group and worked closely with almost in the function for over a period of 9 to 10 years. In her current role, she is actively involved in the group finance and other cost control and monitoring activities. She has an extensive knowledge in this domain. She has left no stone unturned to ensure many cost kaizens in the group. In addition, she is also heading the family office business. She's married to Mr. Vivek Jindal, and who's also been working with the UNO Group for over 15 years and heading the caustic division of the company. So I take the honor of inviting Ms. Paridhi Minda to give her inaugural opening remarks. We would like to know her journey in past 20 years of her association with the business world, and how they have dealt with the challenges which were posed by COVID-19. And we are dealing with those challenges. So over to you, Ms. Minda.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the esteemed ladies present here. Thank you, CII, for this wonderful opportunity to be addressing this August gathering. So, like my resume was just read, I've had a work experience for about 15 years with Minda Industries, which is a home company. Now, my organization has typically been an organization where there are very few women working, because the auto sector is such which does not involve too many women around. And if there are women, then they're basically on the shop floor, and few women in the HR practices or best practices areas. But it's nice over the past 15 years to see how things have been changing and how laws have been changing and how a woman director on board is required, and a lot more hiring of the women professional class is being appreciated, and their work is also being applauded. It is time and again proven in my organization, and I'm sure organizations other than mine as well, that the kind of passion and rigor that women put to their work, along with managing family, along with managing their own time, and along with managing their work time, is incredible. So, women, of course, are doing a great role. Though I feel in the past 15 years that there was disparity earlier. About 15 years back, there was definitely disparity. But now I don't see it. Now I see women and men almost being treated equal under all fields. And with the pandemic, of course, research shows that all the countries which are being led by women leaders, Iceland, Finland, have been able to handle the pandemic much better, because women understand the kind of empathy that a woman can provide, a male member cannot. So, along with empathy, principle, and the whole thing to put together in a structure, I think women are doing a great job. So, I'm totally in favor of the fact that women can handle the COVID pandemic way better than men, simply because of empathy, love. I think they're more multitaskers than men. So, this would be my opening remark, but later, of course, would love to get into depth and hear the views of my esteemed other panel members as well.
Thank you, Ms. Minna. And I like what you said that, earlier there were more challenges. So world is becoming better in terms of women leaders or the women entrepreneurs, women leaders to come forward and contribute. I'm sure the next panelists would have something to contribute on that. We have with us Mrs. Namita Gautam. She is the convener of CII Delhi panel on CSR and managing trustee of Sleep Well, a name we are quite familiar with. Ms. Gautam is professionally qualified in corporate law. She's a director of Sheela Group of Companies, which the makers of most trusted mattresses brand Sleep Well since 1984. She's a managing trustee of Sleep Well Foundation, which is a CSR arm of Sheela Foam Limited. She's been actively working in areas of proactive emotional wellness and skill development, and has been promoting proactive wellness among women through advocacy, awareness, and actions, including seminars, workshops, dialogues, networking, and partnership. Besides being the chairperson of Jijabai, she's also chairperson of Jijabai ITI for Women. She's actively associated with some renowned organizations like IP College for Women, the Hunger Project, Prayatna, and she was recognized for her innovative and dynamic leadership in championing social causes by Sunday Standard, a New Indian Express group. So we welcome you, Mrs. Namita Gautam. It's wonderful to have you today for this discussion. And with this, I hand over the floor to you. Over to you, Mrs. Gautam.
Sunita, Ms. Gautam is going to join us in a couple of minutes, so we can proceed further.
All right. Okay. So our next speaker we will come back to Mrs. Gautam in a little while. So our next speaker for today is Ms. Pushpa Bechter. She's an executive director of DLF Retail. She believes in leading the charge from the front. She continues to set new benchmarks for the retail industries and stands tall as a torchbearer for the women leadership in her role. As an executive director, DLF Mall, she aspires to take Indian retail to a new heights with a vision to not simply expand DLF's footprint in retail, but by making the brand synonymous with an unparalleled holistic retail experience. Never afraid to voice her opinions, Ms. Bechter has always held her own in a room full of retail veterans and played a significant role in shaping the retail landscape in India. One of the few women in retail with a seat at the table, Ms. Bechter understands her responsibility to not simply follow the beaten road, but to create her own individual path to success and inspire other women. We look forward to hearing Ms. Pushpa Bechter also because the retail is one industry which has suffered tremendously because of the challenges posed by the COVID-19. So while we eagerly wait for Ms. Pushpa Bechter to give her opening remarks, one of the areas that we would like to know how they have tackled this challenge and continued with their progress. Over to you, Ms. Bechter.
Thank you, Ms. Soja. Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. It's really great to see a panel full of women who are talking about how women can really crisis manage better. What I would like to say is that, this comes naturally to a woman, I believe. At the same time, time has come when we should rise a little above the woman-man dialogue and really look at, what are the different challenges that we come across in business, in real life. And it so happens that pandemic has shown that, like, Ms. Minda had pointed out, women leaders across the world have done very well. Well, today we are sitting at the cusp of an election where a Black American Indian could well be the next president of the United States. So it just shows that, when we are, as women, we really should believe in the adage of yes, we can, and yes, we should. And we should take claim for the position that we really deserved in the first place. What I would like to also say is that ancient India had shown this space. The Vedic ages had always talked about women being on the forefront of decision-making. Somewhere along the line, the decision-making privilege just got passed on to the other gender in a big way. I think every crisis is an opportunity. This pandemic is only showing that this opportunity is going to be afresh to all women out there. If you look at the pandemic and the forces that really spoke about the various kinds of technology revelations, it was really nice to see Geeta Gopinath at the IMF, Soumya, there was the lady from Edinburgh University. It just shows that Indian women especially, be it in India or be it overseas, they tend to make their mark given that opportunity. But instead of saying that we should be given the opportunity, I think we really should just take claim for that opportunity and just move ahead and really show what we can be and how we can make a difference. Now, coming back to what I believe is of interest to everyone here regarding retail, yes, retail has been highly impacted during the pandemic. What I call is a disruption. It's really, we all got disrupted. But this was the opportunity again for us to stake a claim of leadership and show how we can, as DLF, support our retailers and support the industry and take them forward. So what we did is during lockdown to now, I can tell you, I think I made the teams leading from the front work harder than ever before in order to ensure that my 1,400 tenants are not disrupted as much as they, of course, disruption is there for the year, but we try to save businesses. So that's what we took upon ourselves to save businesses. We treated the entire year as a gap year in the contract and supported them during the pandemic because our revenue is really the rent. So we supported them through that, through a support package, and more importantly, held their hand and showed empathy, understanding each category and its nuances on how it impacted them. However, we are a business house. We have our interest to pay. We have a business to run. So we ensured that it was a win-win, dialogue that we underwent. And I'm happy to say that now we are staring at Q3, and retail is emerging out. It's out there now. The festive months, this quarter is shown that retail is emerging out, and people are out there shopping cautiously. And we as DLF, we just believe that we have led the way to ensure that the industry doesn't collapse.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bechter, for that. That's a very encouraging and inspiring opening remark. Now we have with us Mrs. Namita Gautam. I was just introducing you, madam, to the panel today, but looking at your and your great contribution to the.
So I think you don't have to repeat it. Yeah.
So I invite you to give your opening remarks. You have a wonderful experience of both dealing with the business world as well as you're working on the CSR. So you are associated with the social and economic aspects of the society as well. So looking forward to hear you.
So good morning and thank you so much. Good morning, Ms. Rinki Dhingra, the chairperson, IWN, CII IWN, Ms. Sunita Ojha, co-panelist and the August gathering. I will begin by saying that challenges are gifts that force us to find a new center of gravity, quote unquote, Oprah Winfrey. So I think a lot has changed in the last 8 months. And this pandemic has affected every aspect of our life, whether it is our personal life or business life or a world of social responsibility. It has changed everything. And I think after the initial shock that we had, we have all come to terms with it. We have adapted which is a human nature, that we have adapted to the changing situation very beautifully, and vis-a-vis the whole world, I think India has done well to contain or to manage the pandemic. So we have, a lot to learn. It is still difficult for me to take it as a new normal or the normal. Ms. Bechter just told about the retail business. And that is something that I am missing so much in these 8 months, because it seems like a basic need of ourselves. So when we talk of changes, I'm not a lot of the proponent of men, women, differences and all. And because I'm also looking after the CSR activities of the company and focusing a lot on emotional wellness. So I feel that this difference, etc., the more we talk about it, the more we propagate it. So if we take this pandemic, I think it has affected everybody, man, women, everybody. I do read that domestic violence has increased on the social front, which is very disturbing. But the men are also going through a lot of stress in their lives. For them, the change is even more. So the pandemic has made a lot of differences. It has also given us a lot of opportunities to see our lives, our personal lives, our professional life in a very different manner. We have, on the one side, while I'm talking in my personal capacity, I'm saving 3 hours every day on travel times. And my efficiency has increased. In the initial period, it was a difficult situation to adjust. It came so suddenly that it did not give us time to prepare for this pandemic and such a long break. So on the one hand, if we are missing, I'm catching up on my sleep and balancing work life. I have lost 10 kilos because of the regular lifestyle. So, but it doesn't mean I'm missing my friends. I'm missing shopping and going to the salons. That was something that I enjoyed, and I'm missing it. And when it comes to the company, we have really relooked at every aspect of our business. It gave us time. I mean, this type of time we never got to sit and strategize. And the furniture and the mattresses. So we were closed down for a very small time. So from the workforce to the technology, the online sales, marketing, the cost cutting on account of trips and travels, etc. Everything has been relooked. And I'm very happy to say that in this last quarter, our sales were more than last year's quarter. So I think it has also made us realize that people sitting at home are realizing the importance of sleep and furniture. So they are coming to the CSR activities of our company. I'm with CS and CII CSR panel that I'm involved in. We have, for us, I mean, I can't tell you how beautiful this journey was. We developed new modules on how to start a business, keeping in mind that the job market is very low. We developed and we conducted 4-day workshop, 15 hours workshop. And while we, in the earlier years, we were doing only the workshops were happening only in Delhi for 40, 50 participants. This time we have reached all over India. Just finished on Monday a workshop for Northeast Hill University. And so the whole of the country is our field now. So that is something very, very, very encouraging. Our flagship program in Khurja is stopped because it's a skill development center that stopped. So I think by and large, in every aspect of life, it's a mixed bag. But if I say that this new normal is acceptable to me, no, it is not. I would love to go out and I would like to have the normal, but in a better way. Pandemic has also told us that we can adapt very well to the changing situation, and whatever the learnings from the pandemic is, we should take them forward. So
thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Gautam. That was I think almost everybody from the panelists and those who are watching all of you today would join you on that note that yes, we do want to get back to the normal as we take up the challenges and handle it. Now, coming back to going forward to our next speaker for the day, and I must say that traditionally, traditionally it was understood that there were certain fields which were open for women, whether it was HR or admin, and over a period of time, but we have had names who have always broken those trajectories, and our next speaker would actually fall in that category. So we have Ms. Vanita Datla, Vice Chairperson and Managing Director of Elico Limited. Elico Limited is a pioneer in analytical instruments industry. Elico's expertise in innovating to connect science with lab over the last 60 years has enabled market leadership in the domains of electrochemistry, chromatography, and spectroscopy. And Ms. Vanita Datla is the Vice Chairperson and Managing Director of that company. So it deals with hardcore science and physics, so to say, in that many words. The company's subsidiary, Elico Healthcare Services Limited, is preferred service provider to the clients in the healthcare industry in countries like USA, UK, Canada, and Middle East. The past 2.5 decades has seen her acquiring experience across diverse sectors such as financial services, insurance services, cement, power, security, printing, instrumentation, and BPO services, with stints in USA and India. Her education is as a chartered financial analyst from ICFI Hyderabad, post-graduation from IBS Hyderabad, BA from St. Francis College for Women, Hyderabad. She was awarded a silver medal for standing second in her graduating at PGDAB class in ICFI Business School, Hyderabad. So as we can see, it's a very impressive biodata. And since you come from a healthcare industry, Ms. Datla, we would, this is as during the entire the healthcare industry has been at the forefront in terms of not only taking the pressure from the COVID-19, but also has been pushing the COVID-19 back. And if everybody has looked at the newspaper, we have looked at this with anticipation, vaccine aa gaya kya, so that sort of a thing. So the entire, not just the country, but the world is looking at the healthcare industry, how they evolve, because one thing COVID-19 has definitely taught us that health is very important. Health is important, health is vital, and health cannot be compromised. So over to you, Ms. Datla.
Thank you so much, Sunita, and thank you, CII Delhi, for inviting me. I'm actually from Hyderabad in Telangana. I was the CII chairperson for Telangana. Also, I was the IWIN Southern Region chairperson a few years back. So I do have the experience of women diversity, inclusion, especially in these areas where women are absolutely minimal percentage representing, or whether they're absolutely absent in most of the areas. So it's really a pleasure to be on this very illustrious panel with such exemplary women coming from diverse fields. Sunita, you were mentioning my background in healthcare services. So we actually run a back office healthcare document processing center in Hyderabad, in Chennai, and in Mysore in Karnataka. And we actually deal with clients from the US, from UK, from Canada, from the Middle East. So sometime in January and February, we actually understood the impact of COVID, because though in India, COVID came a little bit later, this had a huge impact in these countries. And so our clientele were facing a lot of issues. So we actually understood, we could forecast that this pandemic is also going to approach our country, and it's going to cause huge disruptions, especially in the workspace. So we were able to understand the impact of it much earlier, ahead of time, and we were able to organize mostly to send all our employees work from home. So the moment we had this Janata lockdown, and on March 22nd or 23rd, from March 24th, we anticipated this thing was going to be a much more longer term. And then we were able to shift 95% of our employees to start working from home. We were able to gear them up with the requisite infrastructure, with the requisite hardware, software, licenses. So we were able to manage the situation because of having our ear to the ground. And I think that is what probably brings, women bring to the table, because we understand the nuances. We understand, a lot of unsaid things. We are very good with, studying body language, studying, things that are not directly said to people. These are the strengths that as women we are able to bring. I also run another unit, which is the parent company, which is a manufacturing concern into analytical instruments, which, as Sunita mentioned, was very, very hardcore. Technical, whether it's physics, whether it's optics, whether it's mechanical engineering, whether it's chemistry, whether it's electronics and software. We actually have all the disciplines integrated into our company. Now, being a manufacturing concern and having people on the shop floor, it was a little bit of a challenge trying to bring them, because we did have to bring them in during the lockdown also, as we came under the Essential Services Act. So we had to manage, we had to speak with the government authorities, with the local enforcement agencies, to be able to bring our workforce safely, ensure their safety. We had to actually talk to family members of these employees, because most of them were absolutely scared. They did not want their family member shooting off to a factory somewhere and being exposed to the COVID, because early in March and early in April, nobody actually knew what this, this unforeseen enemy that we were fighting for. So it was very difficult, yet I think we as a team were very, very good in trying to handle on the family side, on the family front, explaining to them, ensuring that our employees took all the necessary precautions. We brought them to work. We were able to execute most of the orders because we deal a lot with government. We are in the space where a lot of government agencies, a lot of the private sector require our instruments statutorily and regulatory perspectives, because quality needs to be tested at every stage. So we ensured that our employees did work. We were able to execute all the pending orders that we had. And I think most of you would understand that March was a very, very long time for us to go in for a lockdown, because one had to complete the financial year and one had to gear up and budget for the next financial year. But all in all, today we are in November. It's almost 8 months now since the pandemic has hit us. I think though we struggled, though Indian industry has struggled, though every section of society has struggled, I think we have that resilience in us and we have been able to bounce back, if not too high, but we have bounced back a little bit. And I'm sure that with the positivity that we women bring to the table and the support and unconditional empathy that we bring, I think we will be able to steer the industry forward. I've been actually been overworked over the last few months, being a participant on number of such webinars. This never actually happened in the past, because it was only maybe once or twice in a month that I would actually go and attend a CII conference. But today, every week, I have 2 or 3 of such seminars. I think this has actually brought about a very positive aspect, especially for women to be heard and to be seen on every platform that is necessary to bring our perspective. So I will stop there, and I will be happy to take more questions further along. Thank you, Sunita.
Thank you so much, Ms. Datla. That was, I think, what you said about the fact that, you have, because of the COVID-19 and because of the digital becoming a part of our life, we are seeing more of you. So on that note, I would like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Padmaja Joshi. Now, Ms. Padmaja Joshi is she needs no introduction, for the simple reason that this is one anchor that we look forward to watch, because of her absolutely factually analysis, her absolutely cutting to the point style, and being very polite. So she brings on the table the kind of journalism which as modern societies would like to see, which is both respectful at the same time, very, very factual, and very, very cutting. So it's Ms. Joshi is a joint consulting editor with Times Now, and she anchors the primetime show News Hour Agenda on the channel. She has over a decade of experience in TV journalism. She has covered many elections, which in itself is a tribute, in the sense that it's for as a woman journalist, she's been on the field, covered the election, she has come back and reported it, and we have all watched it. So today, when while inviting Ms. Joshi, I would first of all, I would like to congratulate her for keeping the standards of show so high at every week, that as we wait for her to bring the issues to us very, very in a very informative manner. And so, Ms. Padmaja Joshi, my question to you is, you see, pandemic happened, and we were looking at the news channels, and that was our only source of information. How you, as a journalist, as a TV anchor, completely, you faced this challenge and you sort of brought forward and performed your duty. You are on unmute, please. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Very rare for me to be on mute, so I think the medium took that opportunity. Thank you very much for the introduction. So So the last 6 to 8 months have been very interesting and unique in the manner in which we've learned from them. Especially in my industry, I think the unique aspect was that most of us did not have the option of working from home. That couldn't really happen because we needed to be present in person in our offices, in our studio, and more importantly, out in the field. As journalists, this was very challenging for a number of reasons. One, you know that there is an inherent risk in going to office and in going outside of office and meeting people. But that is what was needed because this was one of the biggest stories and a public health emergency which needed to be reported. So to go out there, you need to get the story to the viewer, but at the same time, you are also an individual with an inherent responsibility towards your own family and towards your colleagues. So every time that we went out, you had to be doubly careful about keeping yourself safe and keeping the people around you safe. The women colleagues that we had, I think, found it even more difficult because the kind of demographic that we have in our newsroom, we have a large women workforce, and most of them are in the age bracket of about their late 20s or early 30s, which means that these are usually women who are also working moms. So you're coming to office because that's a part of your job, but then you are also going back to people who are very vulnerable. A lot of them would possibly even have the elderly, their parents or their parents-in-law staying with them. So I found that my women colleagues, all of us, had to face that double challenge. Some of us, of course, opted to work from home if you have a desk job, etc. But a lot of reporters, and I really think that in terms of giving credit, the reporters who are out on the field, especially the women reporters who are also have a double responsibility towards their family, they deserve extra credit. So you can have a person, a father coming back home and isolating himself for 12 hours. But most mothers, and especially also remember, there was no household help at this time. So there were these working women, and I think I speak on behalf of everyone that for working women, the most important individual is their household help. And you were suddenly in a position where you had no help. You had your family at home. You had people who were vulnerable who were at home. You also had to juggle both responsibilities, and there was the additional burden about whether you are endangering your own family. So I think in that work environment, a lot of us came up with some very unique solutions and some interesting changes that they made to their life. But it has been, I think, a learning because in all of our years, like I said, the demographic is of people who are in their late 20s to early 30s. I don't think any of us, in fact, I'm pretty certain that none of us had come across a situation like this. It's been good. It's been challenging. And I think we've all learned some very valuable lessons.
Yes, but you spoke about some coming out with certain interesting and solutions. I think a lot of us would like to hear that because you see, that's another. Those are the good practices or the practices which has worked for women. We constantly try and find ways to sort of maximize your be the best at the work, at the same time be the best at home. So I will, during the course of the panel discussion today, perhaps I would like you to throw some sort of a light, and so we could also benefit from it. Thank you so much, Ms. Joshi. And it was basically to hear, we see there's the one aspect of journalism that we all see. We see that all of you are on TV or covering, writing. But what you spoke about is that, these are not just the professionals. They have different roles to play. So on the one hand, you have a professional obligation and the professional duty. On the other hand, you also have your personal commitments. So women in journalism that way have, after listening to you, that's what my is. They have played it beautifully and they deserve a big salute from all of us. So thank you for that. And with that, I would like to invite our next speaker, who is Miss Nidhi Salgame Tiwari. Now, Miss Nidhi comes from a travel industry. She is the terrain, the vehicle, and the woman, inspiring women to push back the boundaries. And she is the founder of Wander Beyond Boundaries, an overlanding adventure and training academy that organizes 4:4 based self-drive expeditions to remote corners of the globe. That's awesome. And Nidhi helps women and men experience the thrill and freedom of the great outdoors in ecologically responsible and sustainable manner. Through WBB, Nidhi makes a compelling case to de-link driving skill and gender. As Nidhi says, mobility is the key to empowering women. Access to a set of wheels spell greater self-determination for women. So here we have with us Ms. Nidhi Tiwari, who is sort of hammering that traditional notion that women are poor drivers, and here she is. And also because those who love travel and those who are into adventure are the people who have suffered most emotionally, because these times have been really, really trying. With Himachal closed down, the Uttarakhand closed down, most of these places where normally we used to go, whether it was for birding or wildlife, all the sanctuaries closed down. So how have you survived, Nidhi? On that note, to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Sunita. Really sweet. Yes, I come from a space, a little bit about the journey itself. I come from a space which is entirely male dominated. And like you said, there are enough and more myths about women in driving. And I'm an extreme terrain driver by profession. So my job is to undertake expeditions, first of its kind, on lesser known routes to remote corners of the world. And I love it. That said, I think you're right. The pandemic has been perhaps, it's brought to fore all the learning that we typically have while on expeditions. So like the name suggests, it's wander beyond boundaries. So the idea has been to push oneself beyond boundaries, both within and outside. And this particular situation that we were in, kind of brought back or made us go back to all the learning we've had while on the field. Typically, that's when you're out of comfort, you're in really difficult terrain, you're in remote areas with food you're not used to, with less sleep, you're physically, exhausted, you're mentally pushed, you're emotionally also pushed quite a bit. And then, of course, there are these reflections, and then you figure out that yes, you endure, yes, you survive, and you learn and you try and bring that back to your daily life. And I think the pandemic, to a large extent, kind of put that to use, all that learning that had happened on the field. I think one thing that stood out for me and my counterparts in this field, for whom work is pretty much at a standstill, like we've done nothing for the last 7 months, just being home. Of course, that itself has been a challenge. I don't think at any point of time in life I've been home inside the house for this long. So that aside, I think one thing that really has held us in good spirit is that emotional endurance that you develop while on such trips, because there's no other choice. And the other big thing that I think has come of use is the fact that we're constantly dealing with uncertainty and adversity. There's nothing in your control, especially when you're at nature's mercy. The weather is not something you control. There's nothing that you control when you're in these remote areas, besides, of course, your own response to a situation. So I think it's that bit of the ability to be able to deal with that kind of uncertainty is something that has come of use. It's been freaking to a large extent because most of our expeditions are international, and there is no international travel. So we're wondering when it's going to open up per se. Of course, on a personal note, I've enjoyed the cooking and gardening, which I don't think I've ever done to this amount. But besides that, yeah, I think, it kept getting to us, but we kept holding each other's hand. And I think that is something that, I've enjoyed as well. Just to touch a little bit about this gender bit, like I said, though my field is extremely male dominated and I have struggled and come this far to, create my own niche, I've realized over the years that driving, like anything else, is just a skill. And I'd rather be known as a good driver than a woman driver, or a man driver. So the skill is, as much as you practice, you're good at it. You get better at it. And I think one of the problems that we have as women is you don't drive as much, because while the woman will drive to work and maybe kids to the market or to tuition or some hobby class, when it's a vacation that the family takes, it's the man at the wheel. So how does that practice element then come in? So I think that's the crux of the problem as far as women and driving goes.
Thank you so much. When you spoke about the fact that, when the lockdown started and it was kind of putting learning to use, because I myself, I'm a trekker. And when we go for trekking, so, one of the things that Gyan, which is given to you, that a needle, which is like when you're starting your trek, a needle would weigh as much as a brick. And that is how you rationalize what you pack on your backpack. And that kind of a thing, I remember when the lockdown happened and I had to mentally kind of think, what are the things that one needs? So it shouldn't be like too much, but it should just be essential. And on that note, I see a lot of movement, a lot of people actually getting into this whole attitude of minimalism. So you could actually survive with this much. So what is additional is basically a baggage. So a lot of opening of baggage and unbounding and sort of getting rid of things has also happened during this period. Now, I don't know how much of this is good for a retail business, but yes, as a rationalizing force, I agree with you that the adventure not only just teaches you to survive, and also to watch your surroundings, the world does not start from you and end at you. It's outside. So you have to adopt. And I like that motto of, adventure, which is sustainable. I think that's also another learning from this COVID-19, that development in itself will not take us anywhere unless and until that development is sustainable. Now, thank you so much, Nidhi. And with this, I would like to invite now Ms. Rinki Dhingra, who is the chair, Women IWN Delhi chapter and CEO of Law Canteen. So a little bit about Ms. Nidhi. She's recently started her entrepreneurial journey by venturing into the business of food and hospitality under the brand of Law Canteen. Now, previously working as a group president and country head government banking at Yes Bank, she has more than 20 years of experience in banking and finance, working across institutions such as Yes Bank and Rabo India. She's been nominated by the Governor of Delhi as a member of governing body of educational institutes under Delhi University. So very congratulations on that, Rinki. She holds an MBA degree from International Management Institute and a bachelor degree in economics from University of Delhi. So Rinki, we would like to know, as when you say that I've just started my journey as an entrepreneur. So what was the kind of push? What kind of prompted you to start that journey, and how far and how this journey has been so far? Over to you.
Sunita. Yes, thank you, Sunita. Good afternoon, everyone, all our viewers, and also the esteemed panelists today. I was more from a traditional banking industry. Women have found a very comfortable zone of working in banking, and that's where I was for about 20 years of my career, till I started my venture in Pushpaji's mall. So La Canteen is a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and it was for the love of food that I moved from banking to, and also I think somewhere my children were growing up, and I had to give a disproportionate number of hours being a professional, and I could not really give enough time at home. So I thought if doing something on my own might be easier, but believe me, it turned out to be completely the other way. I think when you have a job which is really 9 to 5, you can switch off sometimes. So after that, but when you're in business, you really never. You really never can stop thinking about it, what is happening. I was very happy to hear the views of some of our other panelists, but I think gender inequality and empowerment of women is something which is, let's first step back and realize that all of us here on the panel are the privileged lot who don't have to strive for, or who do not come from marginalized backgrounds or from families which were where women were not treated as equal. The fact that each of us has reached where we have today is because we came from very enabling environment at home. But most people, most other women don't really reach that point. And, I'd just like to highlight that we feel very happy that women leaders have, looked after the pandemic and much better than male counterparts. But women occupy 50% of the planet. But when you look at countries being ruled by women, there are less than 10% of the countries which are being ruled by women. So that means we have a very long way to go for men and women to reach equality. And I think it's been a silent pandemic for women, which has affected them much more. It has COVID-19 has deepened the pre-existing inequalities and exposed the vulnerability of the social, political, and economic system across the world. It's not just for India, it's across the world where women have, if we looked at studies which have been conducted, where they say that the cases of domestic violence have gone up or doubled, and this is mostly towards women, then you know that how they are being treated, when they are at home. Of course, I'm an optimist, and I always believe that opportunity comes always with adversity. And I think work from home has given us access to talent, which was earlier probably being missed out, and women who had children and could not work at all are now we are being able to tap into those potentials and get them to work on flexi hours or, work from home and save on travel time. I mean, all those benefits are there. But I still think that all of us here need to make sure that we handhold each other, we handhold women around us, and make sure that they reach and create an enabling environment for them so that they can be, they can work more, especially sectors like travel and tourism, sectors like hospitality. If we see women work more, but they save less, they get paid less, and eventually they are still working more in the informal sectors of society. And these are the sectors which have got impacted more than the formal sectors. So if there is a woman around you who is leaving her job and going within your company or around you, you just spend 5 minutes on really trying to understand the reason why she's doing that. And if you can extend a helping hand to her, that would be really nice. I think that is what is required from all of us. We at CII IWN, firstly, I would also take this opportunity to invite all of you to join the women's body of CII, which is Indian Women Network, and be a part of the change that we are trying to make, and where we talk about women for women. During the time when the migrant labor crisis hit India, we were distributing a lot of ration kits, etc. And then all of us thought that, ration kits, everybody is doing it, but what is it that they might be really requiring? And if we look at it, the government never thought of providing sanitary pads in the ration kits. I mean, this is something which is, they still don't realize that menstrual hygiene is something which is an essential for a woman. It's not a luxury. So the kits which were distributed by us, we tied up with a company called Pari, and we made sure that all of them had, the small sanitary pad packets in them to help the women around us. So, that those would be my opening remarks. And I would like to just say women for women. And there is a challenge. Let's make sure that we reach where we want to reach eventually.
Dinaji, you said something about how, when we spoke about relief packages, that they were distributed, food, pulses, medicines, etc., and how nobody ever thought about the sanitary pads. And perhaps, that's where I want to come back, because there has been an underlining theme in almost everybody that has spoken today, and otherwise also. So women we see as forefront runners, who are the leaders, they are there not because of everything which is enabling. They are there despite of all the challenges. And I think that inequality, there has to be an acceptance of the fact that equality, although the Constitution guaranteed that equality, there is an existential structural inequality. And unless and until we admit that, perhaps the whole notion of equality can never be meaningful.
Absolutely.
And that is where the whole role of women leadership becomes important, because even distributing something as simple, as vital, as necessary and basic as sanitary napkin, that had required a woman as a leader. for the movement to think that yes, a woman would need it. So that perspective, so when we talk, whether it is budgeting, whether it is planning, whether it is your infrastructure, a very senior bureaucrat friend of mine got appointed in a secretariat, and she said, you know, I sit from morning till afternoon and I don't drink water because there's only there's no separate washroom in the your separate washroom where you can use it. So she says, I hold my bladder and I wait till the time I can come back, and then you start so the development that has taken place over a period of past 100 years or so, it was never designed, the infrastructure was never designed to think that so many women would be out there and practicing. And so therefore having women itself is a goal in itself. What changes they would bring is the future will show, because like you said, you added that sanitary napkin and that would have made so much of relief to so many women. And I'm sure all of you will have so many these stories that how you being there as a decision maker, has you being there as a leader, as in a leadership role, has brought that little, because it's not that when you are as a woman leader, you are expected to work only for women or think only about women or be biased towards women. That does not happen. It's only, what one is looking at, seeing that it's not just an ocular presence, it's also about that perspective. And thank you for bringing that. That's beautiful. And with this, let me introduce our next speaker, who is also associated with a celebrated name and a very a celebrated name, a celebrated speaker, a motivational speaker. Yes, I'm not talking about Shiv Khera ji. This is her daughter, Bhavna Khera Vadera, who stands on a completely a different field, and who is also taking forward that legacy in that sense. So Miss Bhavna Khera Vadera, she is a vice chairman of IWN Delhi, and I think I think Rinki ji had spoken about the IWN's work and inviting everybody to join IWN. And in my brief conversation with Ms. Bhavna yesterday, I understood the kind of work that is happening with IWN. So talking about Ms. Bhavna, she started her career with Arthur Andersen in New York in 1998 as a strategy consultant. She then went on to take the traditional business online in both B2B and B2C space, transforming the way they did business. Today, she helps business become profitable by merging strategy and technology. She helps organizations grow by integrating values and attitude to change mindset. And this, I got to know about the beautiful work that Ms. Bhavna is doing with senior residents in Basant Vihar, that is providing them support through her network of volunteers. And they have really been on their toes during this COVID time. Ms. Bhavna, may I invite you now to give your opening remark?
Yes. Hi, good morning. Thank you, Sunita. Thank you, Anjali, Vaishali, and the team at CII. Thank you, everybody. I feel so privileged to be sharing this panel with so many accomplished women. So yes, COVID has certainly been very, very challenging for all of us. And it's almost like we all have a pre-COVID story, a COVID story, and hopefully a post-COVID story. So, and as you touched upon, Sunita, yes, I started my career with Arthur Andersen in New York a long, long time ago. And at that point, just like all of us, when we're young and finding our feet, I knew nothing about strategy or about consulting, and working very hard to even just figure out how to think and clarify your thinking. But over time, I managed to do it quite decently, and then moved on to other paths, got recruited and moved on. Fast forward, I got married and I relocated to Singapore. I had 2 kids, the younger one of whom had a lot of health issues. So which meant that a traditional corporate career became sort of out of the question. And at that point, he became my #1 priority. So sometimes we have to, make those choices and say, okay, what matters and at what time in our lives. The context is really everything. And so while doing that, I also started looking at Western medicine, alternative therapies, Ayurveda, naturopathy, a lot of things. In that process, I also started my inward journey, which was a very, I think we keep seeking lots of things outside, but somewhere we need to seek the peace within. So I started that journey through meditation. And I had heard His Holiness the Dalai Lama speak in Central Park in New York, maybe 22 years ago. And there was a small story he shared with me, which he said, he talked of the bird. And he said a bird has two wings. And if one is injured, can the bird fly to its true potential? And I was like flummoxed by that. I said, that's really true. And he went on to say that a human being has two wings. One is the wing of wisdom, and the other is the wing of compassion. So as human beings, if one of our wings is injured, can we truly fly? That became the basis. So while I was at home with my son, I started teaching parenting courses, which really integrated the heart and mind. As it is, I was staying at home, I had that flexibility, and I was really on my own personal journey. So I wanted to help other parents really build connections with their children. We all look at discipline, we look at boundaries, we look at indulgence, we look at so many things. And I thought that there was really a need, and I could speak from my own experience and my voice and build something that was really contributing to other parents who were struggling. Having said that, fast forward, my son became 8, and fortunately he was stable and out of the woods. And then I decided to join my dad, and I came, work closer to home. And so I joined my father, Mr. Shiv Khera. And so again, I was focused on strategy consulting, a lot of brand management, a lot of also exploring opportunities for growth. What other verticals could we enter? How could we enter them? And then come March 2020, COVID hit. And it's been extremely challenging for us. Having said that, there are also blessings, and we do create our own opportunities. So one of them has been that we were a boutique firm. So we've, transformed the way we've done businesses. We've changed the roles of the employees at the organization so that they can be involved in other aspects with us. Secondly, getting my dad initially to adopt technology was quite challenging, and he was always on the road. So this way I had a captive audience, and now I could, embrace technology. And yesterday he completed his 100th webinar. So it's interesting, and we've been able to also shift a lot of our businesses online. So training and development. And the third thing is that we are entering the space of value education. That's a new vertical that we are creating, and born out of necessity, and a lot of schools approaching us and saying, how do we help the youth? And how do we really, make a difference? So that is on that front. Now, having said all that, in March 2020, I also became co-chair of IWN with Rinki. She's the chair. And IWN is a fairly young organization, even though CII has been around for some time. And then also with kids being at home, it was very challenging. My boys are 11 and 14. And I found myself becoming very overwhelmed with the hats I was wearing. So I actually decided, okay, I need to look honestly at myself and stop trying to be superwoman. And like Namita ji and Nidhi just touched upon, and they said, how that emotional wellness quotient is so important. And I think at that point, I just said, how am I going to live through COVID, and how am I going to not just live through it, but how am I going to thrive through it? So I started looking at things and saying, okay, I'm never going to get this time again in a way. How and what do I want to leave my kids with? What do I want to teach them? And I started saying, okay, so one, we started building this concept of nesting. Nesting is just where we are holding the space for each other, where we are sharing our feelings. It's a lot of conflict resolution because 2 boys means siblings. And there is there is an innate, inherent thing that goes on with two boys, especially when they're housebound and they can't get their energies out. So whether it's cooking, which is part of our nesting, I've also taught them how to meditate, so which I would never have done otherwise. And now I've also got them, they've learned how to journal. So the three of us at night when we get into bed, we all journal together. So this is another, plus point, if I will say it. Having said that, COVID has been very challenging. I've developed 3 practices myself of coping, and I'll share those with you in just 2 minutes. I want to touch upon what Sunita said about the volunteers. The volunteering aspect is very, very important. When COVID hit, all of us have had privileges and yes, situations where we don't have house help or whatever, but the people over 70, they really are in the highest age group and, the most vulnerable, most susceptible. And a lot of them had part-time help. A lot of them don't have their children living here. Their children are overseas. Some have lost a spouse. They're on their own, whatever it is. So yeah, I'm very fortunate. I've seen also the best of the human spirit come together. And when we reached out for volunteers, we really had an overwhelming response. We have 42 volunteers right now, and we run that team. And we reach out to people to ensure that they have food, medicines, and again, going to that emotional quotient, we also reach out so that they don't feel alone, so that they feel that they are supported and that somebody does care. And it's actually been wonderful even for our volunteers, because their own heart opening, their own empathy opening is just so much greater. And I think somewhere along the way, if we can move beyond ourselves and our own situations, we just become happier. And coming to CII IWN, this is an organization which is about women supporting women. So reducing the number of hours at work so I could also focus on other things, but yet making it very meaningful that when I am at work, I'm at work, even if I'm working from home. So that balance and being 100% present in wherever you are at that moment. So multitasking is great, but wearing that hat and just giving the gift of your presence to everybody, and first of all to yourself. So I think those are my really 3 learnings from COVID. Has been 1, center yourself, nourish yourself. A light can only give as much light to a room as it is itself lit. So, I mean, to be lights for others, we need to be full, whole, happy, complete, and then offer the best of us to others. That's the first thing. So make time for yourself. You are worth it. Second is nourish those around you. Nourish your family, nourish your community, nourish, and connect. You really will feel so much better. This whole, aspect of mental health is also because so much of it is around us. And we need to be able to get out of that. I was there, so I know it. And the third aspect is mindset. This is really, I think, all of life, ups and downs of challenges in everybody's lives. I don't think anybody has reached this far without facing their own set of challenges, is mindset. Everything begins and ends with your mindset. How are you approaching it? So if your self-talk is not serving you, like I had to take a step back and evaluate, you have to do that. If your self-talk is not serving you, change it. If you're problem-centric focused, become solution-centric focused. Life does not live in the problem, it lives in the solution. And that's what we are all here for, we're living. Adopt a growth mindset. So this all is really, imperative to your own learning, your own growth, learn a new skill, pick up something that you've been wanting to do, whatever it is, but develop a growth mindset and use your heart, your mind, your voice authentically in whatever realm that you exist in your own right, and just become completely unstoppable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavnaji, for that very inspiring talk. When you spoke about the fact that, how we have to, my takeaway from your today's opening speech is that you are never too old to learn. So at every point of time, you just have to keep looking at yourself and try and becoming a better person. So there are a lot of problems that one may have that one sees around that could just be a pattern, just be a problem of a certain pattern that one has fallen into. So, gradually getting out of that pattern, and that tagline that you have given, that's beautiful. And thank you so much. And with that, we have our last speaker for the day today is Miss Vandana Chopra. She's the head of brand and communications, KPMG. She's responsible for their firm's integrated communication initiative, managing the stakeholder relations with industry chambers, executing digital media strategy, managing the firms, etc. She's been associated with growing business and organization. She has led several individual assignments and initiatives, both in India as well as globally. She specializes in the domains of media relations, brand and corporate management, internal communication, strategic advice, digital strategy, networking and relationship management, event management, as well as CSR initiative. So, Ms. Vandana, may I invite you to give your opening remarks, and then we could start with our discussion.
Thank you. And what a lovely morning this has been. I mean, it's been so inspiring listening to this wonderful panel of so many different speakers. I mean, each one of you are, I've personally learned a lot hearing each one of you. Given the topic, and, I was just thinking about it. And, the data has confirmed that, COVID outcomes are better in women-led countries, whether it is New Zealand under Jacinda Ardern, or Taiwan under the presidency of Tsai Ing-wen, or Germany under Angela Merkel. All women-led countries have been really prime examples of how to manage a pandemic better. And why is that? Because, women, and we all agree, and we've all said it over and over again, that we lead essentially with empathy. And these qualities are particularly important when managing a crisis like COVID, which means women leaders are very valuable for companies during these times of uncertainty. At KPMG as well, we recognize the importance of diversity and value the perspectives that women bring to the table. And it is because of this that way back in 2003, almost 17, 18 years ago, we started Now, which is a KPMG network of women to help support women initiatives and, really enhance their personal and professional objectives. So what's really been the biggest shift and the change the last couple of months? I mean, we would all agree that the shift to work from home was challenging for most of us. And I feel that the shift back to office is going to be even more so, with everyone now perfectly settling into this rhythm of, working from home. I'm currently alternating between work from home and working from office because I enjoy the whole rigor of getting out from home, shutting the home door and leaving it all behind every morning. And working in the new world, which is, communicating with a mask, is something which is taking all of us time to get used to it, because you do miss people's smile or, trying to comprehend their reaction behind those masks, and the human interface of even those meetings, as most meetings now tend to be only on audio mode. I mean, look at this meeting today. Half of us are on audio mode only. And quite often we just say, okay, bandwidth issues, network is a challenge, which are fairly legitimate concerns. But more often than not, we don't want people to see us in our pajamas, right? So we don't want to put them, on video, and we just go on audio. In the current scenario, where the lines are blurred, but one thing that I've learned, I think we've all adapted to it very quickly, is that we started communicating and expressing a lot more with our eyes. And that is a fascinating revelation to me, seeing how people have started really communicating, expressing all sorts of emotions with their eyes. So in the current scenario, where the lines are blurred between the two spaces, work and office, this has put increased pressure on people. There are two distinct personalities and roles. At home, I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, and at work, I'm a professional. But when we overlap the priorities and try to be in two places simultaneously, this is what leads to mental fatigue. So it's very, very important for all of us to keep the two spaces separate for that healthy work-life balance that we all keep talking about and we want to strive for. But I just feel as women leaders, we lead with more empathy. We are far more democratic and participative. We seek inputs and we listen a lot more to others. And this inherent style that we all have of being multitaskers, fearless and honest, is a critical element in managing situations like these. Thank you.
Thank you, Vannaji, for that insight. I come from, I'm a practicing advocate, and how, of course, the life changed for us with the lockdown, because normally we spend morning till about 4:35 in the courts, and thereafter it's about offices, meetings, etc. And so therefore it was a sudden sort of a disruption in the way we had seen life for past 17 years. That's how it has been. And that's the time, you see, and during this time, we came out with something called Delhi High Court Women's Lawyer Forum. And of course, it arose from it was a very tragic event where the two women lawyers actually committed suicide. And the need was that we need to connect with each other, because we might be staying at home, but at some level, we need to give support to each other. And you would not believe, in past like 5-6 months, there are so many initiatives that were taken, and so many seniors, juniors, we got to hear through webinar, and it's been like a constant learning. Very senior people, women who actually came on the forum, spoke about their individual experiences. Somebody spoke about how she wearing a salwar kurta was actually reprimanded, saying that you can't wear this, from the time where today women are actually wearing skirts also in the court premises. So, that entire journey. So you see, I mean, the challenge COVID-19 has been challenging and has been, it's been path-breaking in so many ways. But yes, every organization, every industry has taken their own initiatives to sort of reinvent and face the challenges. And by hearing all your stories, it has, and I'm sure it has inspired me, and it has inspired, I'm sure, most our audiences today, that how we have not heard a single story of saying that we faced challenge and we had to not do this. Of course, there were, like Namita ji spoke about the fact that we had to close down 1 year at the Khurja, but those are momentary, as we expect. But there are so many newer avenues that all of you have initiated, all of you have started. So that way, the COVID-19 is a disruptive, but it's also been another way of looking at how one can actually look forward and move forward in many other directions. Now, one of the things that I actually, I was really, when Paridhi ji pointed out, she said, you see, now women are treated more equally. So you see, that was, I mean, she coming from somebody who's, hers is a business family. I think, the father and the entire, and they're also into manufacturing sector, which is like a very hardcore, male-dominated, so to say. But of course, we had a missed call also in the morning. Yes. So when you speak that actually is very, very encouraging and very inspiring to say that a woman who is coming from a business family background, because see, some of the issues that women have, and a lot of time we have, I as a lawyer can tell you that we have stood in the court and argued for directors to say that, she's only the woman in the family, kept on the board only for the purpose of the papers, etc., and gotten a bail on these grounds. And there are reported judgments to say that, you see, it's not that women were not a part of the active running of the firm. So when you make that statement, that's very, very, I found it very interesting, and I thought it shows a change in the mindset. It just where women are being actually handed over the business. They're handed over in the sense they're inducted and they're given opportunities. So this is a very interesting. How do you see it? I mean, how do you?
So indeed, of course, like this is say for lockdown example, in my opening remarks, I didn't speak much because I thought it was just supposed to be a short introduction. So, but now with the pandemic having placed, the overall scenario in the manufacturing environment is changing. The rules of how you look at an organization have changed. Earlier it was employee engagement. Now it is more employee health and care. So these things, people, when they're going to be looking for a job, they're going to evaluate the health and care services that a company is also providing them, along with not just basic engagement services. And here is where I think women can bring their best, because I mean, it is undoubtedly no comparison between the fact that the love and passion and care that a woman can analyze that is required, a man can't. Men by nature are not caring. They're like very casual, let it go, let it be, doesn't matter. And so like you asked, in our organization, things were under shutdown. We faced a similar situation wherein when we had to open down shop floor workers, now women, they have to come. There were a lot of issue of migrant workers. What would we do? How would we handle the situation? But a lot of our women in HR roles and a lot of our shop floor women were actually up and about, and they were like, what's required is what's required. On the contrary, a lot of men workers would migrated to their villages and migrated to their villages. Now we can't tell the customer, sorry sir, customer is supreme. So of course all those challenges are there, no doubt. But I feel in times to come now, women will be able to, the gender equality will be balanced a lot more, because IT sector and services like these won't require actually working from office. Work from home has increased drastically. It's a new avenue which is open and now accepted even in manufacturing setups. IT sector and all, it was always there. So now women who could not work because of social stigmas or because of family issues or because of commute or other things can now actively participate and take a leading role in businesses by working from home. So definitely, I think in the next couple of years, gender equality is not going to be an issue at all. Women are going to play it very, very strong.
Okay, any response from I have one short question. I think, yes, Ms. Pushpa has something to say. I can.
Adding to what Ms. Minda is saying, see, what pandemic has really thrown is women entrepreneurs showing their skill and starting their new businesses, however small. Now, I see that as a huge change, because the empowerment is there through social media. People realize that this is a great way to reach out. Communities, condominiums have had new chefs who have started their businesses. I see small businesses starting every second day, and such very, very talented, design-oriented products coming out there. So in a way, if you look at the good part or the flip side of the whole thing, I think the pandemic has made each one of us think and get internal and understand what is it that we can do better? How can we make an impact? Life is short. Things can go wrong anytime. And I think that's the change that I see, which is much more pervasive. And if we as women, I mean, I have taken it upon myself over the past 3-4 years now, I initiate a lot of Made in India brands. And that has helped a lot when I see, women entrepreneurs coming forth. I do give them opportunities through pop-ups and through other ways. And then you see the same brand suddenly become a great brand on its own. It's getting a life of its own. So empowerment sometimes is a channel is required for empowerment. So I think if we look at it as an opportunity, things can really be turned around, but we don't need to give a special treatment to women. I always say that all they need is an equal level playing field.
Right. So if I can just add on to that, I just feel to narrow the prevailing social, cultural, and economic differences, it is important that economic policies are formulated with the gender lens. because special measures for women are minuscule right now. And even the stimulus package, which was rolled out by the government, for the recovery of the economy post-COVID, it's really devoid of any impactful welfare schemes specifically for women. So I think that's another important.
People at CII are listening to that because they can perhaps take that. Miss Joshi had something to say about it. Padmaja.
Yeah, just to add to what was said earlier, I think in terms of, to put it very harshly, what the pandemic did do was sort of level the playing field for men and women, especially in the field of entrepreneurship. I don't say this from personal experience, but around me, I've seen a lot of layoffs, including in friends. And I think women took the challenge of, this sudden jobs being taken away much more comfortably than the men did, because women anyway are used to midlife career adjustments because of their children, because of marriage. And a lot of women entrepreneurs suddenly came into play because, we started from a point of disadvantage where you had more men in the workforce, especially in the better paying jobs. But suddenly when that opportunity was taken away from you, your jobs went away. Women said, okay, we're used to this. We're used to home businesses. We are used to, suddenly starting a business of our own, entrepreneurship, when we are in our 30s or when we have our first child. So, I think in that sense, this pandemic did do that for us in a very harsh way.
Yeah.
So, you see what as I understand, you almost this feeling is shared across the panel that yes, it has been, the pandemic has thrown challenges, but women have been at the forefront of accepting those challenges and converting them into opportunities. You see, but at the same time, the question arises, will this be like short-lived? Or, will we go back to the original, like the way the things were before that, where women, because the problem is that, and that is my question to most of you are from leadership positions and from various industries, whether it is finance, whether it is, manufacturing. Are women prized hires? As in, when you go to hire in the market, are women are considered better in terms of, or are they given level field?
Well, I'd like to step in here because, from being a banker, let me tell you that pay parity is something which is a huge issue, and for the same job which is being done by a man or a woman, the woman is paid at least 30% lesser across the board. So pay parity is something, and women are not really being prized. In fact, there are times when women go for interviews and they are asked, if they're not married, are you planning to get married? Because if you're getting married, that means you will want too many leaves. Or are you planning a family? If you're married, then are you planning a family? Because that would mean that, these are questions which come up from HR to women who are, looking for jobs. So that is why I was trying to make the point that we, in our own respective positions, should try and influence that and create a network where women for women, and at least we in our respective organizations try and hire more and more women and bring about gender equality and pay parity, and make sure that women also get equal opportunities.
I kind of,
I would like to echo the point that Rinki also made. So today we also, in our own company, we have close to 46% of women at every level, including, of course, I'm there on the board. So we have put in such institutionalized, such policies which allow women to explore their potential in any given circumstances. And that's the reason for 5 years in a row, our company had been awarded as one among the top 100 for the best working mother group of companies. So I think, having more women in leadership roles will have to ensure that we bring up more women. As somebody had said, that the level playing field is still not visible to most of us. So we will have to ensure to bring in probably some sort of a quota system until the playing field is level for everybody. So there was a very, very famous quotation by one of these ladies from the US, which said that if you are not offered a seat at the table, you please bring your own chair. So until we are offered a seat at the table, we will have to drag in our chairs and we will have to shove, nudge, and push until we get our seat at the table. And that was the reason why the Indian Women Network was also born. In fact, in the southern region, I was part of the founding team of the Indian Women Network. And I think somebody had mentioned today, the Confederation of Indian Industry is completing 125 years of existence. But where was the place for women in all these years? It was only in the last 7 years that IWIN came into existence. And I think it is only now recently in the past 3-4 years that it has gone pan-India. In southern region, we have been the pioneers, but pan-India, still there is a lot of resistance. I know that CII Delhi and IWIN Delhi is doing extremely well, but there are still a lot more chapters that need to crop up, that we need to push this gender issue across the country.
You know, I also feel...
I would like to say that we here in the panel are all in the leadership.
I think Miss Minda was saying something, and after that,
okay. Sorry.
Yes. No, I would also like to add that, you know, new governance model needs to be promoted to kind of facilitate the whole thing, that allow for co-creation with all stakeholders and in a particular women's leadership in all sectors that would help promote this.
Yes, Mrs. Gautam, I think you were making a point.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that we in this panel are all in the leadership position, and it is our responsibility, like Vanita has said, that she has 46% of women, to ensure that there is pay parity and level playing field. We are trying in a small manner in our organization. The problem actually is not of our organization, but the other infrastructure and facilities for the women. The manufacturing units are in remote places, and for them to commute, even a thing like commuting becomes a problem. The lights are not there on the road. So these are the infrastructural problem. Because of that, it is not because we don't want to. I mean, any day I would prefer a woman on the shop floor than a man. But the problem comes for these things. And I remember when we hired our first woman employee way back about 20 years ago in Sahibabad, there were no lights, no nothing. And that puts a lot of pressure on the organization, because if she has to work a little overtime, we had to ensure that she reaches home safely. That was our own, responsibility that we used to feel. So infrastructure, which is improving, no doubt about it. And as these enabling situations improve, I'm sure more and more women are there. And we have total pay parity in our company. So as a leader, we have to also ensure these things. See, I think so far as law is concerned, the policies are concerned, processes are concerned, they are quite well in place. Now, as a society, we have to ensure that we take advantage of them.
That's very nice, because, yes, Nidhi wanted to say something. Yes, Nidhi, please. You have to unmute here, yeah. You have to unmute yourself, Nidhi.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I've been listening to this distinguished panel, and most of them in leadership positions. I'd just like to backtrack a little and share some of the grassroots issues that one has seen, because I, again, don't come from a very privileged background, but yes, I have worked my way through, and I'm happy about where I am today and quite proud. That said, I think the fundamental issue that I see with women, if they are to integrate with the socioeconomic landscape fully, like we all envision and hope, I think the fundamental problem is mobility. Look at the urban space. You get a job in a far off office. The first thing that strikes you is, how am I going to get there? Agreed, if there is no transport by the company, then you're pretty much going to say no to that job simply because it's just inconvenient to get there. So mobility becomes the key. Similarly, you look at rural landscape. The government, NGOs, they have these beautiful schemes They have skill training. They have, as far as the markets go, they've set up these market hubs. Or for that matter, reproductive healthcare, wherein they encourage women to reach hospitals for delivery. I was working on a project in Nagaland in the interiors, and we realized that while yes, you want to decrease, infant mortality, and you want women to get to the hospital, but how? There is one vehicle in the village, and that is obviously, the priority becomes what the men in the village want to do. How do you expect these women to really get out and avail and get access and realize potential if they have no means to get there? And in fact, one has done formative studies in Kargil and Dras and these extreme terrain areas, wherein young girls, women even, mobility is an issue. And that's why they end up getting, restricted to where they are. Even in urban spaces, a lot of my work, all I want to do is go to, I go to these corporates, I'm called there, and all I do over lunch break is just open up the vehicle and show them what to take care of, so that in times of a breakdown, they know what to do. They at least know how to change a tire. So I think it's about empowering women to just be mobile. I think that'll solve like
lot of problems. Yes, say mobility and safety. So we have, we spoke about policies, we spoke about the laws being equal, policies being equal. There is a change that is there is a change that is happening, and women taking very, being at the forefront. Now, you see, I mean, all these questions ultimately also lead to, in fact, I just wanted to add one more thing, because when we were arguing Babita Punia's case in the Supreme Court, and we're talking about permanent commission for women in the armed forces. So, see, one of the things was women were given as project, there were moments where they have gone and worked on active battleground. But when it came to giving permanent commission, the issue arose, no, it is about their safety, no, it is about what if they get captured by the enemies, etc., etc. So you see, that is that's been one of the issues, that a lot of time we don't want to, we take this very paternalistic, very caring kind of attitude, that you, because of your own safety, because of your own security, that you are, you have to stay where you are and not. So that is where the dialogue has to also change, and the fact that you create the infrastructure, create an enabling infrastructure, and please clear out the field, have more. The dialogues has to be more about having a safe workspace, having a safe transport, having a safe, whether it is your manufacturing unit or your, and so the norms have to kind of change and have to be nuanced, rather than telling that, yes, it is not something which is basically meant for women. And with that, then the question about women's participation in the political, the political process, that also I can't let this opportunity go without taking your views, or sort of a vote on what is your opinion on a 33% reservation for women in the parliament and the state legislature, because yes, I mean, I get that vibe from the panel that yes, we are women. We don't want to be treated any specially. We want to be treated equally. Don't hold any extra. I mean, don't walk any extra mile. But when we talk about the political process, we also have to talk about the fact that yes, there are reasons why women are not so, they're not there in so many numbers, and these numbers in itself are also goals. Having 50% of the population being adequately represented in the parliament will bring about, like that they talk about the sanitary napkin, that will ensure that every relief package has a sanitary napkin. That in order to have that, we need to have more women. I mean, that's my opinion. But yes, how does so starting with you, Padmaja, because you have covered election, you are the pulse of the nation is in your hand. So how do you see it? Will this ever make enough? Will we have enough numbers to have that sort of a reservation, or do you support it? How is it?
And maybe an outlier on this, I personally vehemently oppose a reservation for women in anywhere. Because if you want to be treated as an equal, you cannot ask for concessions to be made of you. And in saying that, just the point that you were making earlier about, women ensuring that there is more safety, there is more representation, etc. I think each generation of women also has to go out of their way and undertake a little bit of hardship to just show the men. See, what happens is, 10 years ago, when I just started reporting as a cub reporter, there were n number of occasions where we were told, you can't go there because it's not safe for a woman. Then we had an entire generation in the last 10 years, and women reporters have gone out there, sometimes actually endangered themselves, just to show that yes, we can do it, because there's a very paternal sort of an instinct saying, we will not let you even try this because we are responsible for your safety and for your comfort. So rehne do, jhanjhat kaun lega. So there is no good hotel for you there. You won't find toilets there. I've gone out there, and for entire days I haven't drank a drop of water, because I know that in interior India there is not a single toilet that I could use 10 years ago, 10 or 5 years ago. So you endure that little bit of hardship. It doesn't count for much, but you make a statement that we are capable of doing it. And then there are people who come after you, and then you keep inching forward. And I think that is the way to go, that on merit, you have more and more women making a space for themselves. It applies to every place. It applies to a newsroom. It applies to a boardroom. Similarly, it applies to politics. And yes, I think in terms of encouragement, rather than asking for reservations, you encourage that more women find their voice in your newsroom, in your boardroom, in your, in your political party. And you don't have to push an undeserving candidate. You just have to ensure that the deserving ones are seen and heard more. And I think eventually it will take a little time, but you will get there. Because as far as reservation is concerned, I personally do not think that women are some elevated beings, and women always think of other women. Women are just human beings. You are just as competitive. And there are plenty of examples of how women have turned enablers as well. So a woman, if in a competitive situation has to push down another woman or a man, you'll do it, because it's, dog eat dog. So I do not think that this whole wolf pack thing really applies, where all women are working towards promoting other women. So maybe that's a beginning, that you see that people around you who are deserving get represented and get heard more. I do not think a quota is necessarily going to help us get there.
All right, I think Padmaja has a different opinion, but I have a lot to say on that point, because, and I want to speak because you see, when one of the tenets of equality is you have to acknowledge the inequality, and there is a reason why women have not been so active in political structure is also because the way the political structure is structured and has evolved over a period of time. But anyway, I think Miss Vanita wanted to say something. Yes.
So I think I totally differ, and I would like to bring a different viewpoint to this. If we leave it to general nature, apparently from the UN report that had studied on women equality or equity being seen in the world, it's going to take another 200 years. And if we just leave it to nature and just allow only the meritorious to come. So I'm actually a proponent that we need to have reservation and quota at every level, unless interventions are able to help women access all these sectors. Interventions have to be there to open the gates. Then maybe, and then we have this reservation or quota system, maybe for a time period. We do not have it beyond certain time. We allow women to come to the table. Because in the past, it is only a bunch of us that have come to this panel here. As I very rightly pointed out, a 125-year-old organization had very, very few women leading the organization. If you look at CII, I think it was only last 3 years ago that we had Mrs. Shobana Kamineni, who headed this industry forum. But prior to her, I'm sure that there were a lot more women, but it was very difficult for them to come to the top slot. Until we come to at least a minimum of a 33%. Today, even a 33% is not available in most of the sectors. Until we come to a 33 or a 45%, then yes, remove the reservation, remove the quota system, allow it for, allow nature to take course and allow the meritorious people to come in. But until then, there are so many talented women that are still inhibited because of socio-cultural mindsets, because of the infrastructure not available. So I'm a true proponent that we need to push. And as a country, today, if you look at India, It is a very, very pathetic state, because though we have educated women, we have educated our women folk, we still have a very, very measly percentage representing in the workspace. And that is what is, I think, bringing our country down. We need to actually bring in all those talented women by giving them a nudge, a shove, or a hand to pull them up to the levels that they need to be. So I think that's my take on this equity and reservation and things like that.
Right.
No,
So
I think I completely echo that particular.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Dhingra.
So I think I completely echo that sentiment, and that brings me to what I said right in the beginning, that if you look at women leaders or leaders leading political countries, only 10% women leaders are there, while women occupy 50% of the planet. Similarly, if you look at professionals, there is a glass ceiling which women are struggling to break. And even when I was in a, called for a top management meeting, I often found myself to be the only woman in a room full of men. The situation is pretty much like that, not more than 15% positions, in professional careers, top positions are being held by women. We can inch towards equality, but we don't want to inch towards it, because yes, the natural process, yes, we want to jump. We want to, now that we've tasted blood, we want it there, and we want it there for all women around us, women for women, and we want to make sure that women get their place on this planet. And I think it'll bring in a lot more empathy, lot more sensitivity, because the 10%, like Padma just said, who've gone out and struggled, and people before us who became bankers or who became journalists have done those tasks and, completed them, or people like you, who stood in the High Court as a prominent woman. I think I'd like to really compliment you for fighting such eminent cases and, making a position, always supporting women, whatever they are doing, whether it was army or it was any of the other cases that you dealt with. So, I think that, but I think it's very much required right now, because the level playing field is not there. We don't want to be above, we don't want to be below, we want to be equal. But for that, without reservation, that equality is going to take a lifetime, more than a lifetime, I would say.
So I would just add on to what Rinki is saying. And, I think the key priorities emerging are to ensure women's equal representation in all, post COVID-19 and post-pandemic response planning, strategic decision making, leadership level, even at the frontline workers, and ensure that economic equality by including wage equality, forming jobs, increasing the overall, women representation in all walks of economic and non-economic activities. I think that is very, very critical.
Oh, so this is a very interesting discussion going on, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say one word. See, and I'm just recalling one of our earliest lessons in political science, and the reason why I asked that question, because I'm really interested to find out why women who are doing so well, they somehow find it less, politics less engaging. That I have always find it a little intriguing, because you see, one of the basic definitions of a political party or of a political process is, if you think that this is the right way, and make it like the dominant way, try and make it as the ideology or as a policy for the governance, and that is how the whole catalyst for participation in the political process comes about. Anyway, I have to interrupt this, because we have one of our last speaker for today, Dr. Rachna Khanna Singh, who could not join us earlier. She has just joined, and I would like to invite her to share with her experiences as far as pandemic is concerned. She's an acclaimed mental wellness, lifestyle and relationship expert who has been practicing for over 20 years. She is the HOD of Holistic Medicine at Artemis Hospital, Gurgaon, and a founder director of the Mind and the Wellness Studio. So, Dr. Rachna Singh, I'm sure the panel would look forward to hear your opinion, how the pandemic has been on lifestyle. Of course, we heard something, but what about relationships?
Thank you so much for having me here, and I'm really sorry for joining in a bit later, although that is what I had committed, because I had already a pre-commitment earlier. So yes, you were, so yes, just to give you a little brief to add to what you were saying about what I do. So primarily, yes, I am the relationship expert also to Times of India. So I write your column, when people write in with their queries. And I also have a radio show running every day on 104.8, which is Radio Mirchi-ish, where people dial in. So just this little brief was just to tell you that, um, ever since the pandemic has come in, we're being flooded in. Mental health has come onto the forefront, as everybody is very, very well aware, and more so post the pandemic, and more so after the unfortunate demise of Sushant Singh Rajput. So yes, it's been a pretty, I would say, a crazy time for all mental health professionals. But having said that, what is really happening on the lifestyle and the relationship front? So if we all recall when, the lockdown 1.0 and 2.0 happened, we all took it as a beautiful challenge. We said, okay, we're going to fight this out as an entire population, the entire society. We said, we're going to fight it out in a very positive way. And people were really happy to work from home. We were, skipping the pollution, the road traffic, and suddenly where we had never in our lifetime stayed back and had meals with the children, meals with the spouses, and it just became a different ball game altogether. Life became totally different. People were connecting to their old friends, relationships. People were playing, doing all sorts of positive things, learning a new skill, getting back to their old hobbies, playing Antakshari, Ludo online. Everything was going on to make sure that we were all staying very upbeat and very, very positive. And at that time, we saw relationships also improve in a very beautiful way. In some aspects now, whether they were the relationships with the spouse or relationships at home with children, because people suddenly got this, unending kind of time. But what happened is that, so everything looked kind of beautiful. And, I always say this in a lot of my talks, and this is, this is possibly the 65th webinar I'm attending. I'm speaking on in the pandemic, but it's been a pleasure. I always say, we have this beautiful WhatsApp messages floating saying the earth has shut down for repairs, so everybody was rejuvenating. I think the human population effectively shut down for repairs. And, we were kind of rejuvenating. All that was going on. Things were getting better. People were, exercising together. Couples were doing stuff together, picking up a book, reading. Now what happened is 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 all went pretty all right. The moment 4.0 hit, everybody got this massive sense of dejection, despair. It's unending insecurity. It came like a big shock where everybody realized that this is not ending very soon. So unfortunately, unfortunately, where people were enjoying that time together, that became. So what happened is, the lines between work and home were getting blurred. Women were having, I think, the hardest time because domestic help wasn't available. Suddenly, women who were working was, sharing the power seat of the kitchen with either the husband or the mother-in-law back again. Kids were on Zoom classes. They had to do double work, sitting together with them. And so we suddenly saw वो जो एक बोलते हैं relationships में मिठास वापस आ रही थी, वो relationships suddenly crumble करना शुरू हो गए. So we suddenly saw an immense rise of divorce cases being filed, immense rise of domestic violence going up. Unfortunate. If we saw the numbers those days, they were closing into 12,000 calls a day from, people or women of good stature calling in and dialing in for help because they did not know what's happening. So it completely took a U-turn. It was a disbalanced situation the first time round also and the second time round also. So we somewhere as a population didn't understand how to do it.
Yes, Dr. Rachna, sorry to interrupt. We have to complete this panel, but I want you to, because you've discussed about how the challenges which has been thrown by the pandemic and how it has had impacted relationship. Your 2 words on how to handle it and how to go forward. I'm sorry, we would have loved to hear you, but
just a simple
time constraint.
Samples. But thank you. I know we need to close on time. And that's very, very good that we are sticking to time, So that I would say that's a good full marks to you guys. But I'm just saying that, okay, so the only one thing I'd like to say is that, which is also something a spiritual guru also said, the way out is only balance. And the way out to understand is that if we have been put through this pandemic for a reason, if we do not understand that, we are fools if we come out of it without a change. It is a time to refresh, sit down, absorb, rejuvenate, come across as a better new version of yourself and a better new version of all your relationships. This is the time to sit down, think, and say, hey, where did I go wrong? So if I'm not coming across better 10% physically, 10% emotionally, 10% spiritually, 10% better in my relationships, I'm really not doing something right. So that is what we need to sit down, understand, and see. And that's the way forward from here, because we all shut down also for repairs. So after repairs, we better rejuvenate and become a newer and better and a fresher version of ourselves.
So my takeaways from Dr. Rachna's, we need to have balance.
Absolutely.
And balance must be maintained. One last word from all of our participants. I'll invite Ms. Paridhi Minda and then my other speakers. Your last takeaway, how we can, as we break this panel and we complete this discussion, one last word to all of us.
So I think we'll have to be patient. This pandemic is not going away soon. There are a lot of changes in terms of personal life, in terms of government, in terms of work ethics, in terms of work environment. So we'll have to be patient, and a woman will definitely play equal to a male gender in the coming years to come, surely. With reservation, without reservation, it's going to happen.
Mrs. Namita Gautam.
My take is that the women have to be in all the fields, making their presence felt, and they have to work hard for it. And once they get there, they have to work even harder, because we have to set role models for everybody. Like politicians, we need good politicians, whether they are men, women, or transgenders. It does not matter. So we really need good politicians, good industrialists, good leaders. So that is my take. And these disparities of women and men are going. And India is a very complicated country. We cannot generalize everything that everywhere it will happen. I think in metropolitan cities
at the same time.
Yes, and the rural areas are entirely different. Lower middle class has no choice. Women are working 100%. And it is upper middle class where we are discussing all these things. Middle class is struggling with all the stresses of working and non-working. So I think
yes, we need a balance.
But we have to be positive, and
we have to be positive. We need balance. We need to be patient. Yes. We need more role models in terms of women role models in all different fields. Ms. Bechter, your word from you.
Ms. Bechter had to, she had to leave early. So.
Ms. Bhatia, Ms. Meena Bhatia. Ms. Datla, Vanita.
Yeah. So thank you. And it's a pleasure to be on this panel and listening to all the diverse views from everybody. Please stay safe, continue to stay safe, stay positive, not COVID positive, but attitudinally positive, and ensure that you open the doors for many more women behind you, because we have learned from women ahead of us and we have come to this position. We should start now opening more gates and more levels for more women behind us to follow us. So that's my take on today's
so we
webinar.
Benefited from all that was done by your previous generation, and we need to leave the similar kind of legacy for the future as well. Ms. Padma Joshi, can I have one last word from you if you are still there?
Sorry, So
Padma.
To leave. She had sent a message that she had to leave.
Miss Nidhi, Miss Nidhi. Miss Nidhi. Miss Rinki Dhingra. Yes, we have you.
Yes, I'm still here. Well, I think COVID has been, one of the orbit changing changes which has happened in our lives, and I think definitely the sort of level playing field for women is going to change. The future, the post-COVID story for women is going to be very different. There is going to be some adjustments which are going to come around. The positives being maybe work from home or tapping resources which earlier could not be tapped at all will come about, but a lot of hand-holding and a lot of support will be required from women who have already are in leadership positions. And I think, therefore, there is added responsibility on us to bring about, this particular change in the society. And one aspect which we did not touch so much upon today, but I think is very important, is the disproportionate responsibility which women have on themselves for caregiving at home. Whether somebody falls sick or, it's a flu shot for my child, if I miss it, I feel so guilty. I mean, I think somewhere we have to get over that also and feel that if you're working and your husband's working and you're not able to, take care of each and every responsibility at home, you need to divide the work at the responsibilities at home to be able to function, in the new normal.
That you're right. You're right, because unless and until, see, I think a lot of people we touched upon the fact that women have a responsibility towards of a child rearing.
Yeah.
So now, but as I always say that except for bearing a child for 9 months, every other work relating to parenting can be equally partnered by men. And we can't really have, we can't have a true empowerment in equality unless and until there is more parity in terms of parenting responsibility. Because all these things because women till now, we have been working a lot as far as the creating a diverse workplace is concerned, but also creating a more balanced place at home is the need of the hour.
So, COVID has shown men the way to the kitchen. I think let them stay there for some more time and encourage them actually to take on these responsibilities.
Yes, you're right. Miss Bhavna, your comments, just the winding up comments from your end. You are on mute, ma'am.
Hi, Sunita. Yeah. So actually, I think there are, if you will, just 3 levels in a way. One is the self, striking your own inner balance, getting your own, centering yourself, and then being a light onto yourself. That's the first realm of, it's almost like an onion and we have so many layers. The second is connection and supporting others, whether it's women, whether it's the old people in your communities, whether it's children. Everybody right now requires support. And it's been a very interesting conversation between Vanita and Padma about reservation. And I think somewhere there is striking a balance on all of that. I definitely believe in merit. At the same time, I can understand why we would require reservation for a period of time. So having said that, connection, supporting others, going beyond your own realm of existence, and recognizing the interdependency of existence. And the third and last is to even say, okay, as women and as leaders, how do I build the next gen? And how do I support this gen? And how do I even contribute to nation building? And that is partly through parenting, instilling the right values. After all, a nation is built on its people. So we have so much here. As you said, parents can share the role, but values, instilling the values that will serve them and stand a nation in good stead. So I think that is one of the key things. And of course, last but not least, lead by example. There is nothing that spells, can teach monkey see, monkey do. So I think that is one of the things that, we need to just drive into ourselves. And on closing, I'd just like to say the best way to, it's a very famous phrase, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So thank you very much.
So with that, we are very much on creating a better future with such dedicated, committed, sensitive, and aware leadership I see a great future for ahead. Before we close, can I have Miss Vandana Chopra? What is some Vandana Chopra?
So, just in the interest of time, I'll keep it very, very brief. I would all just like to say that we all live in our minds, and everything else is an extension of that. So we need to live in peace and not in pieces. And this too shall pass. So.
Say that there's a problem
So, so with that, like all good things, this session has also, we must end this, keeping in view the time constraints. It's very interesting. We had a panel of women who are leading industrialists. They are the front runners in terms of the trading, in terms of communication, and at the underlining message that I got from all of you is that behind that, the thriving, behind that very powerful a leadership, a business leadership, there is a very sensitive, very, very communicative, very compassionate person. And with that, I think that is what my takeaway would be from this session, that yes, while women leaders in the economic field, they have taken the challenges in their stride, and they have worked fabulous. And there is no way of kind of there's been several success story. At the same time, there is a greater awareness, there is a greater realization of working on the finer nuances. With that, I thank all of you, and I wish you all a very a very good career ahead, and a very healthy life, and a very balanced life. And we wish to catch up again on another platform, and perhaps IWN or CII, and learn more about your journeys post-COVID. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sunita and everybody. Thank you.
Very well. And conducted it excellent, beautifully excellent.
Wonderfully
yes,
done, Sunita.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excellent.
As a lawyer, it's difficult to keep yourself, you stop yourself from talking, but I had a good practice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay.